Oh, damn.
She's such a cinnamon roll.
Cinnamon
She's
roll.
so sweet, yeah.
You said sweet, alright? Get
Yeah.
your dirty mind out of the gutter.
I'd eat her up like a cinnamon roll.
Okay, alright. You ruined it.
You'd glaze that cinnamon roll, wouldn't you, Shawn?
Oh, yeah.
Oh my god.
Oral glazing. That's what it
Oral
is.
glazing? I'm talking about skeeting on her or something, dude. What the fuck are you talking about?
Oh god, that's even better. I should have gone that way.
Yeah, orally glaze. This dude, we're talking.
I was thinking of licking her up because you lick the frosting off a cinnamon roll, but I don't mind frosting her.
In what world does the process of glazing refer to removing the glaze from something? Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 46 of the Thought Patrol podcast.
Oh, this is 45.
No,
Last week was 44.
are you sure?
Yeah.
Don't you? You're fucking.
Kyle,
you're messing with me.
I'm not.
I suck at this.
Kyle doesn't know maths.
Quick maths. It was 44.
Kyle.
Okay, episode 45 of the Thought Patrol podcast.
Kyle.
I hope I didn't confuse anyone
You
that was listening
folded.
to us like episode by episode.
You folded.
I folded. How about you?
I fold
Fuck
every
off.
day. Oh.
Yeah.
That escalated quickly.
We have a bounty of hosts this week, including Caitlyn.
What's up, guys?
Real quick. Oh, and Shawn, as always, his lovely self over Discord.
And that guy, Shawn. Yeah.
Yeah,
Fuck
that guy,
guy.
Shawn.
Fuck
You know.
that guy.
Oh, jeez. Okay, you could lower your chair if you need to. I'm just trying to. We've been working with other setups so we can get maximum professionalism.
Yeah, like chairs.
Yeah. Still no booms for our mics yet, but hey,
We're getting there.
we're getting there. It's a
Hey, Caitlyn
walk,
and
skip,
I
and a
have
jump.
all the boom this show needs. Okay.
That's true.
Damn.
Us combined, we have all the boom.
That's
Yeah.
our next T-shirt idea, isn't
Yeah.
it?
Exactly.
We are all the boom.
Exactly.
Real quick, if you listened to us last week and we absolutely frustrated the fuck out of you.
I was actually
With-
really nasal. Like, my voice sounded really different last week.
Oh.
I was really sick. Oh, fuck.
Real quick, we found out the game that we could not remember at the end of last week's episode. And it was, in fact, Our World. If you were part of the Discord, then you already know this. But for those of you, I know a lot of you just aren't or just listen every week just for the shits of it. That's completely fine. But just so you know, it was Our World. That was the name of it. And literally the description of the game is a social game that had a demographic of teens and tweens or some shit like that.
It took a lot of Google searching, that's for
It came
damn
out
sure.
in, 2008, I think? Yeah. So that was the game that we were stuck on and we couldn't fucking figure out.
Like, for the life of us.
Yeah, it was really bad. But that was that. I put a link, a wiki link in the Discord, but that mystery has been solved, and the game looks like shit.
Like, it looks worse than it did before. They changed it, but...
Yeah, but so that was that. Just a real quick update on that situation. And before we get into our podcast, the meat and potatoes of the episode, how have you guys been? Shawn, how's your week been?
Well, the week was pretty weak, but the weekend's been okay.
That's good.
Just considering I've been surprisingly playing a video game all weekend, like super geek style.
Hey, and what is that game, Shawn? Against your better judgment that your best friend forced you to play.
He did.
Oh,
Yes.
shit, I still haven't played
I
that.
was gonna grind Final Fantasy 14, and Kyle guilt tripped the shit out of me to get me to play the game. So I have been playing the shit out of the game.
And he's loving every second of it. Well, I'm glad you decided to listen against better judgment and play the game.
I have a notorious habit of collecting games and not getting around to playing them, so it was good that somebody, took to deceitful and underhanded tactics to get me to actually start playing my games.
Uh-oh, I'm going to sneeze.
Bless you, sir.
I dabbed when I sneezed.
I said bless you.
Did you literally
Thank you.
dab while you
You're
were
welcome.
sneezing?
Well, because I can't close my mouth. Usually I sneeze with my mouth closed. But because
Because Kyle's a little bitch baby.
the whole sign is bullshit. They literally told me you can't sneeze with your mouth closed. You might blow up your head. So
I mean, not that would be a funny thing. That's
he
hilarious.
laughed though.
that'd be a good way to go out, though. Like I'd take that as a way to go out.
You sneeze and your head explodes. That's fucking epic.
In the middle of Publix, I'll take it. Scare a little kid, get some brain juice on him. Be metal as fuck.
Okay, let's move on.
Get it in their mouth.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Man, would
Like-
that not
like-
traumatize someone?
Like,
They'll never forget your name, or at least your face. And
At least your
the
brain
parts.
juice.
No, you know that's how I move on, right? Because I'm dead. But if a piece of
someone's
me gets
intestines, they
ingested by
accidentally swallow you.
It gets shits out and then it just keeps moving.
And then they come to do it Kyle 2.0.
yeah, you just see me, and then that'd be a good idea for a show. I just thought about it. Cal
The
2.0,
shit clone.
and I don't have a belly button.
The shit.
That was an actual show, wasn't it? Cal 2.0. You didn't
I
have a
think it was
belly button.
Kylie. I think it was a girl. Kylie 2.0.
The Matrix. The fuck are you
Yeah,
talking
the guy
about?
in the Matrix doesn't have a belly button.
Well, I'm talking about there was a show called, I think it was Kyle 2.0, and the dude was like some kind of robot. And the whole point, like on all the promotional work, it shows him lifting up his shirt and he doesn't have a belly button. Like that was the big push.
Right.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I remember that. It was like a soap opera for teens.
I'm
What
already
else?
on it.
If it came out today, it'd probably be on Freeform, right, Caitlyn?
That show, those like shows used to be so good when it was ABC Family, and now that it's Freeform, it's just shit.
Aw.
Straight. It's like old Cartoon Network and then new Cartoon Network.
Yeah, you're right. Nothing will beat
You know,
old Cartoon
art
Network.
goes in cycles. Art always has a shitty cycle. This is that shitty cycle.
Yeah, but it seems like it's gonna last. So
Fuck.
What'll
might
happen
be
is
longer than the
Freeform will
others.
go under.
I hope so.
well, ABC Family like didn't last, so let's hope Freeform doesn't last.
You hear that, Freeform? We're
Freeform's the
coming
same
for you.
exact company. They just changed the name.
Yeah, to an even shittier name. I don't. Oh shit.
That's because they weren't making family content anymore.
That's true.
why.
It wasn't. That's right. That's right.
Yeah. Don't ask me, dude. I still rage over the fact that they killed G4 TV.
Oh my! They used to have like 1,000 Ways to Die on that show. On that like
I remember
network.
watching that. They also had that
And it
show,
was really
like, was
gross.
it Mansers? I remember feeling so bad when I watched it because they had like women in like bikinis, and I was like 8 years old. I'm like, what the fuck is this? It always came on late at
G4
night.
was supposed to be. They used to have a video game television channel and a tech TV channel that was all about tech stuff, and they couldn't float by themselves, so they combined into G4, which had both the tech stuff and video game stuff. But then they weren't producing enough of that content, so then they were like borrowing Spike TV's shitty programming. And I don't get me wrong, I like Spike TV. I'm pissed off that it's gone because apparently you can have Lifetime for women, you can have Oprah Winfrey for women, you can have Oxygen for women, but you put one fucking man channel on there and everyone shits a brick that's archaic and it's old school. So fuck you, SJWs. But outside of that, they would borrow some of that same goofy, like Mansers and 1,000 Ways to Die. They borrow shit like that and put it on on a G4 to fill up the roster because they just didn't have enough to do it all day. And that's why that was on there. And that's old Shawn. Okay, moving on.
Yeah, I remember
That's
like
Shawn stories.
like one of the episodes I saw was like, would boobs bounce on the moon or some shit like that, or how to survive getting
that's
hit by a
fucking-
car.
That's awesome.
I still remember that, how to survive getting hit by a car. You got to tuck and roll into the windshield. That's it.
Yeah.
Leave him be. What are you doing? He's not a host. No, he'll figure it out. Damn dog making noise outside because he's not getting any attention. Fucking asshole.
Whoa.
You heard me, Bruce. You're an asshole. Look at me with them puppy dog eyes. All right. So I'm glad you're doing good, Shawn. How about you, Caitlyn? How's your week been? Let's just break into tears.
Like any other week, I guess.
Normal week.
Fucking awful. Like the normal. You know? Huge.
What have we done besides Nino Kuni? We watched Justice League finally.
Oh my god.
That movie was a
joke.
movie was a meme. I liked it. The moment I realized that it was a meme.
What was the meme? The whole movie?
The whole movie. Did you?
Oh, you were confusing me at first. I thought you like actually liked
Is
it.
it actually on music
Yeah.
now?
Yeah.
Jesus,
I'm back. That movie was such a fucking joke. Like,
I apologize for that. Caitlyn went to mute her mic and didn't unmute it. So that's what that sound discrepancy was there. But we're back. Hey, how's it going? Bruce?
Shut up.
You will go outside into the garage and locked up. I swear to fucking God.
He's like, please. Lay down.
I think this new setup's not helpful because it's even worse. I don't know.
It's because of Bruce, fucker.
Yeah.
Lay down.
All right, so Shawn. Justice League was not good, which you already know.
Yes.
But if you watch it as an action, just a subpar action movie with recognizable characters, it was a laugh, I could say. Like the one scene near the end, I think it was Batman. He was in his car driving around, being chased by all the parademons.
No.
And he put on these like goofy ass fucking shades to his mask, and every once in a while, action would be going, all the CG stuff, and it would cut to his face, and it'd just be him like grimacing like really hard and like looking up with just like the most goofy fucking like sunshade things on his face, and every time he popped back into view, it made us laugh like audibly, because it just, again, if you treat the movie as a meme, it's pretty pleasurable.
And like when Superman goes like
oh yeah, the Superman flying where just his fists are out, but like it, you can tell that he's being held up by like something, and he's just on a green screen.
I when I saw that scene, because I refused to watch the movie. I've seen parts of it, but I saw that part because somebody else was poking fun at it. They put the Top Gun theme song behind it, Highway to the Danger Zone, while he was driving the car. Yeah, it was fucking genius. Like, that was my thought the whole time, was just put that fucking song behind it, and it was so fucking beautiful.
I can see Bruce being picked up by the bikes. Oh, I apologize. Jesus Christ.
But I don't see it.
Get him out of here.
No, you get him out of here.
I will. Talk to Shawn.
Yeah, it was just a joke. Aquaman was fine as fuck though.
Jason Momoa.
Everybody wants to bang Jason Momoa.
He was so fine.
Go.
I don't know what to say. It was just so, those like scenes where he was underwater. Those underwater scenes are really funny.
Oh yeah.
Like the water sounds, like whoosh. But like,
I mean,
he's just so those aren't his real eyes, right?
No, those aren't his real fucking
Fuck off,
eyes.
alright? Just like that wasn't Superman's real face. That whole movie was fake.
They spent like $75
Superman
million.
was actually played by a 6-year-old Mexican child.
They spent like what, $75 million taking off his mustache or some shit like that.
I can't believe
he
that.
had to keep it on for another role.
It wasn't $75 million.
Let
He had
me
a
just throw that
contract.
out there. You could let Superman grow a fucking mustache. I mean, it's not that big a deal.
I think he would look good with the mustache. I mean, he's been dead for a while.
He's
he
like,
grew a mustache in his
He's
coffin.
had a stash before, but when he grew the stash, he was a bad guy. Back during the day when that's how they differentiated, like, Superman with a stash is when he's become an evil man.
That's so stupid.
It's like
That's very
like
50s.
this typical French handlebar playing
Like,
with the
he's, like,
handlebar mustache.
twirling it. You know what
I
was
think
even
it'd be
funny?
funny if his mustache was more like Archer's mustache when Archer had that fucking Burt Reynolds stash going and everybody made him shave it off.
Oh yeah.
Please
What were
tell
you
me
gonna
that there are people in our audience that watch Archer, because if not, I've lost respect for all of you.
I watched a little
Wow.
bit of Archer.
I've seen Archer before. Not all of it. I haven't watched
Archer's
it in
fucking
so fucking
beautiful.
long.
You know what was even funnier in that movie?
What was even funny?
That scene where like, listen, what's the name of the girl that?
Wonder Woman?
No, the other girl in the movie. Well,
Amy Adams?
What's her character's name?
Big Adam.
Lois Lane.
Lois Lane. The Amy Adams. She is the worst Lois Lane like in all of time. Like she was just terrible. She's so old and wrinkly and disgusting.
What does that have to do with anything?
Her like boobs.
She's got
sag.
a fat ass though.
Her boobs sag.
Were her boobs sagging?
Dude,
I wasn't
she's
even
not.
looking at that. She is. She is my first
She's
crush.
43 years old.
She is now, but like when she was in the first night at the museum as
Okay, well
what's
how
her
long
name?
ago was that?
What was the name of the pilot that flew over the Atlantic?
Hart. Something Hart.
Amy
Something-
Earhart.
Amelia Hart. There you go.
Amelia
Amelia
Earhart.
Earhart.
She had a fat ass in that
Amelia
movie. I ain't gonna lie.
Okay. Then how long ago was that though?
That was a while.
Yeah, it's been.
I was like in school still.
They should have picked someone else.
back in the dinosaur
Who
age.
cares how old she is?
Caitlyn
Well, she
does.
was the same person from the other Zack Snyder Supermans. That's why they brought her back. Obviously,
I know, but it's a problem.
That whole scene was kind of a mess because you can
when
tell
they were in like the cornfield.
When they were in the cornfield, you can fucking tell that they were.
They were not there.
They were in front of a green screen.
Yeah,
like,
that was
you can
so
see,
bad.
It's like for some reason the lighting was bad. So
How hard is it to take someone out to a fucking cornfield?
For real.
Yeah, it's not like
for
no one's
real.
going to charge you to fucking film on their cornfield.
Like put some sponsorship in the back, like a little like sign, like, "Oh, this is my cornfield."
I'd be like, just buy me lunch, okay? If you buy me lunch, you can shoot your scene here.
Please, and then like,
how about dinner?
I don't know, but
and get me a date with Wonder Woman.
There you go.
There you go.
She's married. I don't care. Just get me one date. Doesn't matter.
Is she married?
Gal Gadot.
Yeah, she's married.
She is.
Yeah, dude. Gal Gadot has babies and stuff.
Oh damn,
she's such a cinnamon roll.
She's so sweet. Yeah.
You said sweet, all right. Get your dirty mind out of the gutter.
Like
I'd eat her up like a cinnamon roll.
Okay, all right. You ruined it.
You'd glaze that cinnamon roll, wouldn't you, Shawn?
Oh, yeah.
Oh my god.
Oral glazing. That's what it
Oral
is.
glazing. I'm talking about skeeting on her or something, dude. What the fuck are you talking about?
Oh god, that's even better. I should have gone that way.
Yeah, orally glaze. This dude, we're talking.
I was thinking of licking her up because you lick the frosting off a cinnamon roll, but I don't mind frosting her.
In what world does the process of glazing refer to removing the glaze from something? It's okay.
Shawn, did you take your SAT?
I'm sorry. I'm just picturing bad things.
Can you not?
I'm sorry.
Right? She's like cutting paper with a box cutter during the. What the fuck is wrong with you?
Sorry.
Worse than Bruce.
Does Bruce have a problem cutting paper with a box cutter?
Yeah,
I mean, where are we going with this?
He can destroy anything with his. We like stepped out into the little landing at the top of our stairs. And fucking just, there's fluff all over the place, and I had no idea where it originated from. He just got something, and now he's probably hidden it, and it's dead. Is it still the groundhog?
Yeah.
Did I not warn you that Bruce he's a terrier, all right? All pitties, they're terrier. Well, yeah, but he's got a lot of terrier.
Got like
in
a
him.
terrier body.
Terriers take forever to grow up. They stay in puppy mode for like 11 years. So you are going to have a dog that is full grown that is going to be acting like a puppy and doing puppy shit for a long fucking time. So just prepare yourself.
Yeah, and he
will not be old and boring for a long time.
He's a 90-pound lap dog. So
yeah, for real.
Yeah,
pretty much.
I get home and he's like,
Caitlyn! All right.
Yeah, no terrier understands how large it is. So he will get in your lap. It doesn't matter if all you see left is like elbows and knees. He doesn't care. That's terriers, dude.
Yeah,
so Justice League was a little bit of a mess. It was
shit
still a
show.
fun watch, but
I only watched it for Gal Gadot and what's Aquaman's name?
Aquaman, Jason Momoa.
Yeah, that's all I watched it for.
I wonder what kind of last
You
name
know
it is.
that DC is in trouble when the only good superhero movie they have is completely average, and people laud it as being amazing simply because the only thing they
It's
have
not
to
bad.
compare
Yeah.
That's what Wonder
if you
Woman.
really watch Wonder Woman, Wonder Woman is not a great movie. It's not even a good movie, but it's fun. But there are so many stupidity problems,
Just shit on that movie.
continuity errors. Like it's not.
And now they're bringing back the dude that died at the end of the fucking
But
movie.
it's
I don't know
fun.
how the hell they're going to do that. They're bringing back, what's his
I'm
name,
excited.
Chris Pine?
Though. I love.
How the
him.
fuck are they going to do that?
Chris Pine,
he blew up in a plane.
It's a comic book movie, dude.
He
You
actually
can bring anyone
listen.
back
He
from
actually
comic
jumped
book.
out at the last second.
He jumped. Wasn't his legs broken or something?
No.
What the fuck am I thinking?
There were no
about?
parachutes, so if he jumped out from that high up, he's a quadriplegic.
Wait, how do you know he's a paraplegic?
He
How do
landed
you know?
in a haystack, dude. Come on.
Yeah,
dude.
with a
Because I
needle.
remember him not being able to get out. Like he blew it up while he was sitting in the cockpit.
Yeah, he did. I don't know how they're going to retcon that. We'll find out.
They made it abundantly clear.
That was a perfect
His
joke.
ass is going to be in a wheelchair like Stephen Hawking's. Rest in peace. But his ass is going to be
Too
Stephen
soon,
Hawking.
No wheelchair jokes on my podcast. It's too soon. All right.
You know,
I have a
Stephen
test
Hawking
tomorrow
used to
morning.
run over people's feet for fun when they pissed him off.
What a fucking dickhead,
I think that's fucking great.
Stephen Hawking.
Like even when he's in a wheelchair, he can't tell somebody off, but he can sure as hell bust your toes up.
Yeah, dude. No.
It's like,
I support that.
What you?
An asshole.
I love the memes that come from this. No offense. Again, rest in peace for Stephen Hawking. But like, there's a meme of like when Stephen Hawking finally dies, and it's just the sound of you turning off a Windows XP computer.
What's that sound?
Fucking meme.
That would be if Bill Gates died. That wouldn't be if Stephen Hawking died.
Well, it's just because he's like, the joke is like he's
a
part
computer.
Yeah, he speaks with it and shit
That's
like that.
so funny. That's fucked up. It's funny.
That's funny, man.
It was funny.
Yeah. It'll be funnier if it was Bill Gates, though.
You guys want to hear the most fucked up joke I've heard in my life?
Go ahead.
So I was on Twitter the other day.
Always the best place.
Yeah.
The brilliance of humanity resides on Twitter.
You know it's a good joke if it starts like, so I was on Twitter.
This is really messed up, all right? You guys prepared?
Yeah, a trigger warning here. Keep that in mind.
Really
we do not mean to offend you.
So it had like a Time magazine, and it had like the survivors of Parkland. And you know that girl that's like bald?
I guess.
She was one that's. She's like the icon. She's like.
Okay, she's an icon of the people speaking up after the Parkland.
Is she the one that does all the angry speeches?
Yes, her.
Oh, okay, go ahead.
So she was on the cover. She was.
She's she's all right.
I like how it first goes.
This is even more fucked up.
Can I bang it?
Yeah, it's me. Come on, she's cute.
Sound like Antony. Didn't he openly say in a podcast if if it moves, I'll fuck it or some shit like that?
Yes.
That was something that happened. It was way far back. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
And so like it was her and another girl, and she wasn't wearing any shoes. Like I don't know why, but her feet were out there, and I was like, what the hell? So there was a comment, and he was like, it's like, I want to know why this girl isn't wearing any shoes. And there was another comment, and it was like, well, I want to know why the girls, because she was wearing like ripped jeans, the bald girl, and she was like, this guy's like, I want to know why she's wearing like super ripped jeans, and she's like, this other comment's like, it's like, yeah, it's almost as shot up as the other students from Parkland. I'm like, no.
It's messed up.
I kind of.
That's pretty evil.
It wasn't even funny though. I would have, if it was like funny, I would have.
Wait, I'm gonna find it.
I would have accepted if it's funny. I'm all about making light
dark
of
humor.
Yeah, I love dark humor. But it's got to at least be funny. You got to make it.
Yeah, that was just kind of hateful.
Joke.
Here it says, "Can you explain to me why that one chick is not wearing any shoes? Also, tell me why Emma's jeans look more shot up than she was." That's what it was.
Oh fuck!
Oh my! I was like, well, first of all, she wasn't even like.
She wasn't even injured.
So, but I don't know. I thought it was really messed. I was like.
Okay, trigger warning.
I think the worst one that I've ever heard. Hold on, trigger warning back.
No, okay.
The worst one I've ever heard that actually got a giggle out of me at first, like I chuckled for a moment before it set in, was like, "How do you kill 1,000 flies at once?"
You scream at them.
Nice.
Smack a starving kid in Africa.
I don't quite get it.
I don't get it either.
Because every time they show pictures of the starving kids in Africa, they got flies on their face.
Okay.
Because they're covered in flies, so it's how do you kill 1,000 flies at once? And like I laughed at first just because I heard smack a kid, and I was like, and then I was like starving kid in Africa, and I was like, oh.
Wait a second. I'm human trash.
Yeah, that's about the time it registered. I was like, oh god, I feel so bad now. All right, trigger on done.
Well, trigger warning over. I'm glad you all have come to join me, and all of you tuning in, we're glad that you're here to listen to us banter about bullshit. So, we're going to move on. We're going to talk about some housekeeping real quick. Some clerical bullshit to get through. So, if you want to discuss anything with the hosts actively and say hi and stuff like that, you can join our Discord. We do have one. All these methods of communicating with us or connecting with us will be in the description below on YouTube, podcasting service, everything. So feel free to check that out. If we talk about something that interests you, we're going to be talking a little bit about Ni no Kuni today and some other things, whatever comes up in conversation, because not jack shit has been going on in gaming news. So this episode, I don't know, we're just going to let it...
Not necessarily, there's been some stuff.
Okay, well, Shawn will bring up what he thinks is important, and then we'll discuss. But if there's anything that we discuss that you think you have an opinion you'd like to share with us, feel free to leave a comment on YouTube or any of the podcasting services that allow that. I know some of them do. We'd appreciate hearing from you guys, just hearing your stance, what you guys think about these topics, stuff like that. That'd be awesome to hear from you guys. Also, if you want to get us every week, this does come out normally every Tuesday at 8 a.m. We had a little bit of hiccup last week, but normally we try to get out every Tuesday, 8 a.m. So if you want to continue to stay up to date with us, feel free to subscribe on any service, again, that allows it. And finally, or actually next, we have Twitter. If you want to get updates, announcements when we do streams, which I have been doing a lot more of, and stuff along those lines, feel free to follow us on Twitter at ThoughtPatrolPD. And finally, iTunes reviews. If you want to help us out and get us somewhat notified, I don't know. That's a good way to do it. It's real quick if you have iTunes already. If not, you have to download it, sadly. You can't leave a review without downloading iTunes. Drop a review. Even if you don't type anything, just drop a 5-star review or whatever you feel is proper. We'd really appreciate it. We just want to hear feedback from you guys, ways that we can make this show better and kind of tailor it to our audience. We'd appreciate hearing from you guys. And that's about it. So we have a mailbag, as usual. This is from our boy, Sam. Mr. Sam Harris, keeping us always... Well, we're never out of questions with Sam around. He's always got something for us to talk about, which I appreciate, Sam. So, Sam says, "Hey, Ni no Kuni 2 is great. I agree with you. In fact, it runs at 60 FPS on a standard PS4. So, with that said," this is all caps now, we're in rant mode, "why can't developers make games on current consoles run at 60 FPS? I know graphical fidelity is a factor in making games today, but my goodness, why can't there be a compromise or a middle ground when it comes to performance and graphics? I would rather have 60 FPS gameplay all day long. Let me know your thoughts, winks, Thought Patrol, and then Q plus Ultra." So,
my goodness, we're pulling out the sharp language, aren't we, Sam?
I know, right? He's got to be so
when he
rough
rants,
with us.
he goes all out.
Yeah, he does. It's like 6 F-bombs in there. He doesn't know how to treat us carefully. So,
God, these are virgin ears, Sam. Come on now.
I know, dude. You're fucking with me right now. So, yes, I do agree. Ni no Kuni 2. What? Ni no Kuni 2. I said Ni no Kuni 2. Have you ever done that? Like,
No.
I'll mix letters in the middle of a word. I think I had dyslexia.
No, I'm not retarded.
Why can't you do this to me? You're such an asshole.
Sorry, I'm smart.
So Sam's question here. Well, Sam, I don't have to deal with that because I have a PC and everything runs at 60 FPS on PC. So, yeah, that's the answer. But genuinely, what do you guys think? Ken, would you rather have 60 FPS or a prettier game? Or in between? You don't give a shit,
I
do
really
you?
don't care.
And that's the proper answer. Caitlyn, well, she's probably less than a normal gamer. She doesn't play as often, but she reflects a normal gamer, someone that does not
give
fully
2 shits.
Yeah, a lot. The best answer here, dude. A lot of people don't give a shit. The FPS counter, like, people can play 30 FPS games and not care if the game's prettier. It just happens. It's just how it is. That's the focus currently. We've talked about this earlier on the podcast. And I do echo your sentiments, even if I just want an option. Like, on the computer, if I have a weaker system, and it's necessary here because no one has the same rig for the most part, if I have a weaker system, I can still run a game at 60 FPS. The game's just not pretty as if I had a higher system. But the standard usually on PC is the fact that you want to try and attain the 60 FPS. It really depends on the game you're playing, but you want to attain the 60 FPS first.
Cool.
Oh my god!
I feel bad.
Then just open the door. Then just open the door. This fucking dog.
What did you do to Bruce?
He's like walking up and down the aisles outside, barking like a monster. He's such an asshole.
In.
Like, I will spend every waking moment of my day with this animal, and the moment we're gone for 30 seconds, he has a panic attack. This dog,
his
heart
mind
could
is
fucking
the
explode.
equivalent of his mind is the equivalent of a 3-year-old child. That's about the level of understanding he'll ever get. So,
Well, 3-year-old children are assholes.
Fuck those guys.
Yeah, so that's kind of how I feel about it, really. When it comes to this, it's just because I don't think a lot of console players really care, sadly. And eventually we'll get to a point where technology will be so good, 60 FPS will become a standard, and it will be possible. And I could see that happening next console generation. We could have pretty games and 60 FPS at the same time. But it's not hard. They do it on PC with literally every single version. Some are better than others, but it's modular. If you want to turn down the setting, if you don't want your shadows to be in goddamn 4K, that's possible.
My opinion on the question raised by Sam is I come from a generation of gamers where all of our games were ugly. I mean, they were 8-bit or they were 16-bit, 32-bit, 64-bit. There was always some sort of hitch or goofiness to the graphic. So I don't really give a shit. Like, as long as the gameplay is solid, that is all that I care about, is solid gameplay. You give me a game I enjoy playing, the ugliness or the prettiness doesn't matter. It's nice to have a pretty game, but it is by far from necessary. As long as you do your best to make it, pleasant enough to look at. Because I'm not spoiled by PC gaming. Last time I did any kind of hardcore PC gaming was like fucking 10 years ago. So, I don't really care. And if you look at the last hardware generations, was it the 32-bit hardware generation, the PlayStation 1, the Saturn, or those around then, like, they had 60 frames per second games. Just that's how they were made, and nobody gave two fucks. It didn't become important until it became a mainstay in PC computing, and then they started advertising it as something special. Because back when we had 60 frames per second back then, nobody gave a shit.
Another thing that's interesting is if we, like, obviously now, comparatively, if we go back to games look like shit. But at the time, they looked good because we didn't have anything to compare them to. So at the time, if you go back and look to Final Fantasy VII, it was marveled as being one of the prettiest games of its time because it looked good comparatively to the other things on the market. So you can't necessarily say the games were ugly because at that point in time with that technology, they were the best that existed and they were pretty for that moment.
Look at it. Yeah, but you could still look at it and go, that dude's nose is obviously a fucking prism. That is obviously a triangle.
Well, yeah, that's because now we can compare it to literally mocapping people's faces into games. The technology wasn't available back then. Those games look pretty. When we look back on games, you remember them as being pretty. I've done it. When I go back to
I still think they look pleasant though. I still think certain 8-bit and 16-bit games were gorgeous. That doesn't mean that they, I didn't immediately recognize flaws. It just meant it wasn't important. Like with Final Fantasy, there's a big thing with they always say Cloud, the spiky-haired protagonist, because they couldn't do the hair the way it was in the drawings. So he had these like crazy spikes that were just overpronounced, and it was silly looking, but you just accepted it. Like, or with the 64, like when the 64 came out, I loved it because I had Shadows of the Empire, and that game was awesome. And the graphics were like, wow! But then after you played a couple of games, you start to realize that the textures are super sharp, but they're like 1 millimeter by 1 millimeter, and then they take that super sharp texture and spread it over 32 feet of space, and everything has this smeared ice cream effect. And I hate that. And that's why, to this day, even when it was fresh, I still say that 64 games are ugly. Because they are ugly. And they're ugly because of the memory limitations. That's when I started being pushed away from Nintendo, when they started fucking their hardware up. But even then, you could tell that the games were ugly, and all the fog and shit, like everyone knew. That doesn't mean that they weren't fun games. It doesn't mean they couldn't also be pretty, but you could tell when something was skimped on. If you don't have that feeling like something's skimped on, nothing else matters. I think that's my point.
Okay.
Just, even when you don't have something to compare it by, you can still tell if a game is attractive or not,
Yeah.
Like, even back then, you could sit there, I used to wish that there were graphics better than 8-bit and 16-bit, because I loved the shit out of Final Fantasy VI, but I always wanted to see, it was hard to get emotion out of characters that are, 2 inches tall or an inch tall, and they only have they did a great job with the music and with little animations. Like, Square was really good with that, but there was still only so much you could do with this almost like a keyed down comic style animation Whereas when they came out with 3D area, you could do so much more in terms of purveying, the feelings that the characters had. They could talk. You could get voiceovers. You had more instruments to work with. You had a bigger space because you could animate larger faces. You had polygons now. But I still saw that they were ugly. It's just you didn't think it could get any better. The anti-aliasing was garbage back then. So you'd have polygons cut into other polygons and clip on the regular. It just happened all the fucking time. You still noticed it. You just didn't understand that it could be better.
Okay.
I don't necessarily think that just because there wasn't something better doesn't mean that you didn't think that that there was an ugliness to it or there was a flaw. It's just, if you don't have the technology to not have those flaws, that becomes a flaw that you live with.
Yeah. I think that kind of answers the question. I think the best route, and hopefully it gets adopted to consoles, would just to give it an option. I know they've put this out with the PlayStation 4 Pro and things of the liking, where you can prioritize something. Like the game will start, you'll get 2 to 3 buttons at the start of the game that will tell the game how to run by just fucking with graphics, but it's simplified because apparently console players are retarded, so they don't know how to deal with messing with modular graphic settings. But just if that's the way it's got to be, do it that way. You turn on I don't know, Ni no Kuni or Uncharted, and the game will pop up, give you 2 buttons. Do you want to prioritize a solid 60 frame rate or a higher resolution and higher graphics? I don't know. You hit one of those buttons and the game runs like normal, but it just prioritizes whatever you decide to make it do. I could see something like that coming along the line, even if we don't get a lock 60 on everything in the next console generation. Maybe that might be what becomes norm. It's modular. You pick a setting and the PlayStation does the rest. So I think that'd be a good middle ground, and we've seen it happen. And there's games that did it. Final Fantasy 15 did it on PS4 Pro. Tomb Raider did it on the PS4 Pro. Hopefully they just take that process and integrate it into the other titles as they come out, because it's not hard to do. It's something that it's just part of the development process. Especially if there's already a version of the game that will be coming to PC, they have to put it in there anyway. So it's not that hard to move all that information over to a console port of the game or a console version of the game. So I think that'd probably be the best thing moving forward in that category at least. But I still think the focus will continue to stay on graphics, because that just seems where everything's going now. Making games prettier and prettier. You can still see that when something is advertised. Usually that's one of the grabbing things. They're showing you, that's why sometimes when they do trailers, they stick to pre-rendered cutscenes, because it's like, hey, this is how this game looks. Obviously that's not always the case because they're pre-rendered, but not everyone knows that. It's really crazy. There's a huge, with so many people that play games, again, we've talked about this before as well, a lot of people just don't know a lot about it. It's just a hobby that they do every once in a while. They see an advertisement for a game, like, holy shit, that game looks awesome, and they don't understand what a pre-rendered cutscene even is. And then there's some people that know those tricks because they've been playing games for a while. They know every trick in the book and shit like that. But it's just they're adhering to a mass audience, and that focus seems to be on graphic fidelity right now. And Ni no Kuni 2 isn't. I mean, it's a pretty game. It definitely is. The game is gorgeous, but it has an art style that allows it to run at 60. If it was
not graphically intensive.
If it was like a Western RPG that didn't have a certain style to it, like it's trying to do, then they would have been doing something like when Skyrim was coming out. Look at the graphics and stuff like that. And you would have seen that. It might not have ran at 60 FPS. But the fact that they're adhering to a style where it works, same reason Nintendo's games are usually 60 FPS. They have an art style down where it allows it. Their characters don't have to be realistic because they're all not. That's just how it is. So I'm interested to see what happens moving forward too, especially as we get closer to the next generation of consoles, seeing what everyone decides to do. Isn't that crazy?
Well, remember, part of that whole frames per second thing was all an ad campaign. Like, nobody gave a shit until the PS3 and the Xbox 360. And then somebody somewhere decided, hey, if we throw in it does a certain number of frames per second, as opposed to I think it was when they started, you didn't hear it in consoles as a thing. It was there when developers did it, but it didn't become a thing until the 360 and the PS3 were competing. And the Xbox was trying to get an edge on the PS3, and the PS3 was notoriously hard to write for. So they would develop something on the Xbox first and then port it over. And when they were developing for the Xbox, it was easier to get 60 frames. So they would do a game at 60 frames on the Xbox, like Bayonetta, for instance, on Xbox was 60 frames, and on the PS3 it was 30. And so when they would advertise, they'd be like, "Look, Microsoft would say that they had more third-party titles at 60 frames as opposed to PlayStation, which was a lot of them were locked at 30 because it was just too difficult to write it at 60, or because of time constraints, writing it at 60, so on and so forth." So that became a common way to fight back and forth, was a new thing to bitch about, because originally nobody gave a shit, nobody knew. That wasn't a part of common gaming lexicon, was how many frames per second the game was, until they started that ad war and they were advertising, and it was a way to talk about shit, because it didn't mean anything to anybody when they first started talking about it. But as PC gaming has grown, and as gaming technology has grown and people have become more aware, because it's become a regular thing for developers and for console manufacturers to throw out there, now we care about it because it's become part of the discussion. But when it wasn't part of the discussion, nobody gave a shit.
Another thing I think is a big hint there is the fact that technology has progressed. And back on TVs that use like the 3 plug inputs and shit back then, refresh rates weren't technically they weren't as high as they were today. So even if a game ran at 60, although there would be a difference, it'd be harder to recognize, because it even brought about this stigma that like your eyes couldn't even see the difference between 30 and 60, which isn't the case now. But back then, it was entirely possible for it to be the case, because if your TV was not refreshing fast enough, those extra frames that were being output by the console were not even being picked up. So I could definitely see why it wouldn't have been any kind of mainstay or something that someone would have looked for, because at that point, technology, it depends, because there's so many variables, and there could have been TVs that were able to properly relay 60 FPS, but that doesn't necessarily mean it was the norm, like everyone had one in their house. Just like how we have 4K that's slowly coming into commonality now. Not everyone has a 4K TV. And we have one, and it's only downstairs. And I don't even have anything that does 4K. So at this point, you kind of see the same thing. 4K might not necessarily matter to someone because they literally can't see the difference. They don't have something that can output at that level. Whereas you could have seen the same thing back then. Oh, I don't really care about 60 FPS. I don't see a difference. And then the stigma forms, your eye can't even tell. Oh, well, it's your TV that's doing it, not your eye. But you can most certainly see the difference now. And even now, you can see a difference between 60 and 120 frames if you are 100 and something. I don't know how many it is. If you have a 144 hertz monitor or 120 hertz monitor, you can see a difference there. I think a
certain hertz, you go beyond a certain hertz, and your eye has difficulty seeing much beyond that. I think it's anything over 120. There's a certain mark over 120 where you're getting to a very gray zone. Well, yeah. TVs, we had that discussion where TVs are going to hit a dead end when it comes to refresh. They're going to have to do something else. And we when we're talking about how it's going to be, how the media is engaged instead of the fidelity of the media, so to speak, because above a certain hertz and your eyes can't physically perceive that.
Yeah, no. I definitely understand, and I think that's, again, it was just an easy answer back then, and it just stuck kind of. But if you were to set up, if you had a computer, if you were to set up something running at 30 on your PlayStation and spin around and look at something running at 60 on a computer, that's definitely something that can be seen. It does look smoother, and even between 120 and 60, there is a difference. It's much more minimal than it would be between 30 and 60. 30 and 60 is a big fucking change. So hopefully that answers your question, Sam. Spent a shitload of time on that, but thank you for all the questions that you send in. We really do appreciate it. And let's move forward onto our game segment. So we have returned once again with Kyle Ruins, still pushing through this absolutely horrendous fan fiction. It has gotten a little bit better, at least in the form of smut. But besides that, writing could still use some work. So I'm going to go ahead and we're going to get right into this. I need to open it real quick. But go ahead, future Kyle. Go ahead and drop in that sexy ass classical music. And I'm going to go ahead and find this shit. Oh, man. Shawn, you missed a doozy last week. It was pretty good. But hopefully it will make up this week, because we're not necessarily at any sex scene yet, but we have started the fantasy where Bella wants to be a contestant on Edward's show. So that has started the whole thing. I think there's some nefarious going-ons in the background. I think he might be actually recording it. But there might be some actual some fucked up stuff happening here. Maybe Edward's actually running some kind of a slave trade, and Bella is his next target, and it has something to do with The Price is Right, and it's something we never knew about. You never know.
I think this is actually canon in the Twilight universe. I'm just guessing.
This is the book that never came out.
Yeah,
that's
I'm
what
not
it is.
fucking
This is
retarded.
after.
I don't like Twilight, but I'm just saying, I think that might have something to do with Twilight.
Ah, fuck. I have to find out where I was. This might take a second. Shawn, entertain the audience. Fuck.
What?
I give you entertain the audience, dude. I'm looking for where the fuck I was. This sucks.
This is the song that never ends. Yes, it goes on and on, my friends. Somebody started singing it, not knowing what it was, and then they kept on singing it just because.
Okay. Stop.
What?
Caitlyn, continue the song. Get in it.
She told me she loved me. I told her only partly. I only love my mom. I'm not bad. She's so sorry. Ooh.
Can we not sing Drake on this podcast?
Ooh.
I might have to cut off one of
Isn't
your
there
fingers.
like a rule in the charter when we formed this organization that there was no Drake singing? I think that was a rule.
I'm sorry. That's
yeah, we all signed it with our P, right?
Is
it P?
It
was like a mixture of urine and blood, actually, if I remember correctly.
Oh, nice. It's called.
I have no recollection.
That's because we did it while you were sleeping. You're bound by blood, miss.
Yeah.
Oh god, this sucks. I need to mark this off.
Tell me she loved me. I told her I'll be that's my song.
The song is fucking awful.
I'm gonna do it again.
This will entertain him the second time.
All right, so
oh Jesus.
Okay, so a couple walks into a bar. Oh, we're done?
Go ahead. No, I want to hear what you have to say.
All right, so a couple walks into a bar, right?
And they both go home with knee injuries.
No.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So they go to the bar.
Okay.
I see this guy.
Uh-huh.
He's drinking some orange juice.
Okay.
And they're like, "What the fuck? This is a bar.
Okay.
Why are you drinking orange juice?" And they leave.
What the fuck? That was like a horrible anti-joke. Have you ever heard of anti-jokes? Yeah. I love the one that's like an Irish man walks into a bar. It's pretty good.
Mine was even better.
A horse walks into a bar. Bartender says, "Why the long face?" Oh,
damn!
That was
terrible. Or a horse walks into a bar. The patrons leave out of the safety hazard warning.
That's so funny.
I found out where I was and I lost it.
Jesus walks into a bar at the inn. He hands the innkeeper 3 nails and said, "Can you put me up for the night?"
That was pretty good. That was pretty good.
It's Palm Sunday and you did that. You did that. Oh my gosh. He's doing the most right now.
All right. I found where we were.
Hey, and I am, what's the word? I don't even know what I'm Christian-ish.
Okay. What is it? Agnostic?
So
you believe there's a higher power, but
don't. Of that joke.
Oh.
I can't remember. I can't, dude. I have this problem today. It's only today. Every actor I've tried to remember their name, and I was having this hour-long discussion with Perry's girlfriend about movies that we watched on Netflix. Couldn't remember a single one of them. And you know me, like I can list off a fucking laundry list of actors and what movies they were in and when they came out and singers and songwriters.
Who's the main character in Camp Rock?
Name today. What?
Who's the main character in Camp Rock?
Name every actor from High School Musical now.
That's the thing.
Troy Bolton.
That was his actual name, you fucking
It was a joke.
Stop screaming.
I don't.
Troy Bolton. Gabriella. Sharpay.
Stop screaming. Let him talk. You're like peeking so fucking hard over there.
I'm sorry.
OBS is screaming.
I heard High School Musical. I couldn't control myself.
Go ahead, Shawn. I'm sorry. I apologize for the lack of constraint.
I am defeated.
What's that one song by in High School Musical where he like slaps his hand on the water? I'm not gonna stop till I get my job. One chance, this is my chance. I don't know the name of the song. That song was fucking lit when I was a kid.
Oh my.
Bet on it, bet on it, you can bet on me.
And he's like looking at me, he's like,
I've never seen High School Musical.
He's like looking at me, he's like,
he wasn't looking in the mirror, he's looking at his reflection in the water. It was horribly CG.
Oh my! I watched that recently, and I was like, oh my god!
I watch that music video every night before I go to sleep.
Oh, you cry to it. Is your daily cry?
Yeah, my daily cry.
Your motivation for the day.
That song's lit. I'm not gonna lie. If you like pop. Is that even pop?
It has guitar in it. It has a guitar solo.
What the fuck does that have to do with
I guess it's rock.
It's not rock. If anything, it's
because
really
pop
soft.
music can't use instruments. So
yeah, it's only a singer and digitized information.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right, let's get on with this.
I think we're like stalling at this point.
Yeah, you guys don't want to hear my beautiful porno that I found.
My phone.
Okay. All right. So last time, Edward offered Bella a gift in the form of some kind of rock. I don't know exactly what it was. Hopefully something from like a stream somewhere that he found. And we got a really nice Dr. Seuss moment. The game had only just begun. He tugged at my hand and led me over to curtain number 1. And then mercilessly fucked my ass raw. Oh. Right, Shawn?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, wasn't she fucking him though? I think that's what we agreed on. Something like that. Okay.
Was it written so poorly that you couldn't tell the difference? That's
well, no, they haven't had sex yet. I'm waiting for it. Okay. So we're at curtain number 1. When he pressed the button, it opened to reveal a miniature golf game. I jumped up and down.
What the hell?
This is so fucking bad. Got a banger right away.
Wait.
Dude, I would have loved to play it.
You have fan service erotica that just mentioned a mini golf game.
Hell yeah, dude. This is more than just fan service erotica.
That is magical. This needs to be written into like sacred texts.
We need to preserve this in case humanity ever does.
Yeah.
So when
so
the aliens
they know
come,
the one good thing that we did.
Yeah. I jumped up and down. I'd finally get to play this old classic. Man, our author loves mini golf. He set his microphone down on a small table and gathered a ball and golf club before handling them to me. That's not how you say that. Quote, think you got what it takes, he teased. I'm not sure, but I bet you, Edward, could make a hole in one. I waggled my eyebrows while accepting the item.
You have to do me a favor. Don't autocorrect it. Read it exactly as it's typed.
Okay.
All the fucking inappropriate words and the fucking errors, you gotta put that in there because it's not special if you don't put all the moronic shit back in. Come on now.
I love this. Perhaps you'd like to know what you are playing for this time, he asked. He's taking it really seriously. Like, she's just trying to get in his pants, and he's like literally just doing the show as if he was hosting it normally. Yes, please, said Bella. Being that you just received a material prize, I thought this challenge could be for something more physical in nature. He traced a finger across the curve of my lips. I let my tongue sneak out and greet him. It's so fucking bad. He removed his hand and placed it in his pant pocket. Miss Swan, our fine sponsor, Edward Cullen, is providing you with 3 mind-blowing orgasms. That is, if you can get the ball in the hole in just one shot. That's fucking hard, dude. Have you ever gotten a hole in one in mini golf?
Yeah.
Yeah?
You have too.
I have?
We used to go mini golfing all the time.
We did go mini golfing quite often, so it might have been something that slipped from my memory. Have you ever gotten a hole in one in mini golf, Shawn?
Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
Are we talking about, like, is this still a sex euphemism?
No, this is real life mini golf I'm asking about.
Oh, well, yes to both questions.
Oh, okay. Okay, so he's given her the great goal of 3 mind-blowing orgasms. That is, if you can get the ball in the hole in just one shot. The number of orgasms goes down with each extra play you require. I'd advise you aim wisely. I chuckled. He didn't know of the many birthday parties I had at Cracker Jack's mini golf growing up in Phoenix. I was about to have a lot of fun and a lot of orgasms. Wow, this is special. I love the time we spend together.
I can't wait to have a lot of fun and orgasms when we get to hang out, Kyle.
We're going mini golfing, dude?
Whoa.
Oh, God. There's a place right around the corner.
Please.
Only with hole in ones, mister.
This is the best story ever. And not just because you're reading it, because I still think Kyle Ruins is a horrible idea because of what you did to me before. But
never forget.
But this story
Rusted spaghetti.
Magic.
I held the club firmly with one hand while pretending to stroke it seductively with the other.
Oh my God.
As if it were an extension of Edward. Edward shook his head, and I heard him mutter, "Tisk, tisk." I continued my little game by bending over to place the ball on the AstroTurf in an exaggerated manner. I shook my ass at him. I probably didn't look as enticing as I'd hoped, but it was fun to play with him. At least you're real with yourself, Bella. That's all you need. Oh my God.
On the AstroTurf.
Yeah.
It's not AstroTurf, you dimwit.
I think
they don't use AstroTurf in a mini golf course.
I think AstroTurf
is what they use in a football field.
Edward's taking this way too seriously.
So is Shawn right now.
I think the FCC would take an issue with the view I have right now. We are on CBS, not Skinamax. We can say Skinamax? Is that an actual thing? Isn't it Cinemax?
Skinamax is what they used to call Cinemax back in the day because Cinemax would have these like softcore porns at like 1 in the morning.
Oh, that's nice. He tried to act all stern, but his jagged voice betrayed him and he revealed his need. I quickly took my first and only shot. The ball went perfectly into the hole. Ha! I proudly lifted the club into the air, not afraid to boast about my mini golf skills. Very nice. I guess I'll be a busy man soon, he winked at me, and I could tell that he was just as pleased with my play as I was. Ooh, excuse me. So much for some true competition. Once more, he took my hand and walked us over to the curtain in the middle, pressing the button. The Plinko game board came into view. Dude, I've been waiting for this.
Now we have Plinko. Excellent.
Yeah. I shrieked with joy, a little too excited. Even though I'd been in the presence of this almighty game many times before other contestants, I'd yet to play it myself. Edward, are you freaking kidding me? Plinko? I started to dart towards the stairs, but his fingers caught mine and pulled me back. Just 1 second, love. Stay here. He went to a little open container to the left of the pegboard and gathered 3 Plinko chips. I see, Miss Swan, that you're quite familiar with this classic game. In fact, it's the fan favorite on our show. But I think you're going to enjoy the slight twist I've made tonight. I'll hand you these chips, but you are not to read the bottom side. You'll place them flat down on the board, and if you hit any number other than 0, you'll get to experience what's written on the chip. I will read the chips out loud after each turn. He handed them to me, beckoned me up the stairs, and once I reached the top of the pegboard, I looked at him. I couldn't help but feel a little nervous about what was on those chips. I knew he was capable of some devilish things in bed, but just what was I subjecting myself to? Who was I kidding? Whatever he had on there, I'd love. With that thought, I placed the first chip on the board. I watched it zigzagged its way down ever so slowly until landing in the middle $10,000 spot. Not too bad, I thought to myself. He promptly picked up the chip and read the piece of paper that was securely taped to it. The winner of this chip gets to choose the sexual position of her choice. Ah, yes, this is where the raw dogging of Edward's ass starts. I'm ready. Where was I? I lost my spot. I smiled, liking that I was going to get to call the shots during our next rendezvous. Dude, it's happening. I better get to see Edward fucked in the ass. There you go. I'm ready.
I just pictured you doing the SpongeBob. I'm ready. No. I'm ready.
Dick in hand. Oh, wait. The next chip moved down to the board with speed and narrowly missed the $0 slot. I loudly blew out a breath. Close, Bella, he warned before gathering the chip and reading it to me. The lucky winner of this chip shall enjoy the talents of a cunning linguist. Can I give up here?
Yes.
That was horrible. Was that a sex pun? I don't think I've ever heard one of those before. And
I've
talent.
never heard anybody use AstroTurf in a fucking erotic story before.
And a talent he is, I called out from up above. I may have had to share the stunning vision that was Edward Cullen with America each workday, but no one else got to enjoy the magic of his tongue. Eagerly, I dropped the final chip and watched it go. My smile turned to a pout when it landed on the 0. Dude, there's some like nice rhymes in this story. It'd be cool. I need to find a fan fiction that's done in the art of like a poem or a Dr. Seuss book. I'd
like
love
erotic
that.
haiku.
Dude, that's got to exist fucking somewhere.
It does.
Edward shook his head and made an over-the-top sigh. I'm afraid this was the best one of them all, Bella. He pulled the chip closer to his face and pretended to struggle at reading his own handwriting. If this chip lands on a winning slot, the lucky victim, or lady, shall be stripped naked and rope-tied into a big wheel and spun round and round. Fucking laugh.
I'm sorry, you said big wheel, and I just pictured like an adult strapped in one of those like little kid tricycles with a giant wheel in the front.
I was thinking like, is that Price is Right? The big wheel they spin and try and get.
Yeah.
But, oh no, it's sideways though, isn't it? Fuck.
Yeah,
That'd
it's
be funny
inside
if,
of
like,
a machine.
Like in the middle of a show, you have some dude like strapped naked to one of those, and they're spinning it trying to get the dollar. Fuck, where was I? You're still making that up, Edward, I huffed at him. I started to stomp down the stairs, but he quickly climbed the first few steps to meet me halfway. I might have made that one up, but the others were real, he said with a huge smile and tossed the chips over his back. He pulled my hair back to expose my neck and then trailed kisses from my shoulder up to my ear. Care to cash in on one of those chips right now? He asked in a whisper before nibbling on my lobe. He knew that spot made me give in to just about anything. We might get spicy here. If you have any children in the room, now's the time to ask them to leave.
You may also want to leave.
Just let the podcast play. Come back in a few minutes. I moaned and went limp in his arms. I'd like to choose the chip, he said. He nodded his hand in my hair to let me know I wouldn't get much of a choice. A barely audible yes escaped from my lips. Why do all these a lot of the... Now, take this with a grain of salt, because it's not like I read fan fictions on the daily.
Yeah, right.
But is it like a fantasy to get like dominated by a man?
It's a fantasy on both sides of the fence. Yeah, that's pretty regular.
I guess there is, there's like, I guess you could kind of say the dominatrix fetish is pretty big. Because you see it often in like pop culture. I don't know how big, but...
Oh yeah, dude, it's
enough
fucking huge.
Enough to make it into games and media and stuff like that. I've heard it's pretty big in Japan. Like they have an issue with that.
Dude,
well, not an issue. It's not a problem.
Some of you have friends that are into that shit, and they just don't talk about it. Like it's a big thing.
I bet you Auntie's into it. You think Auntie's into it? Oh, Shawn's into it?
I'm into everything though. Identical.
Oh.
Yo, give me a pink unicorn, dude. Good to go. Strap a dildo onto it. We're good to go. Right, Shawn?
No, not like that. No, I've had girlfriends that like to be bound and choked and all that kind of shit.
But are you into that? If that's okay with
you. They did a little. They wanted to do shit, and I was fine. Dude, to me, like, all that stuff, like, when you go hardcore into... Huh?
It's like foreplay, kind of. Get you ready.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Like, for me, it's a spice. Like, for people that are diehard into it...
It's oregano.
That is an entirely different act than sex. No, I'm serious. Like, they'll have one night where all they do is fuck with each other. They'll torture each other with clamps and all that stuff, and they'll get off on it, but they won't have sex. And they'll go to work the next day or school or whatever, and they still feel the stinging or whatnot all day, and they get off on that, and then that night they fuck. They have all out. They go all out and shit. It's a whole lifestyle thing. Like, and it's fun to play with, but it's never been the main course for me. Like, we'll do a little bit of that. Well, costumes or fuck around or just rough sex or whatever, but it's never the main event. That's just something that's fun to do. It's never been a pervading element of what I do in my relationships. It just ends up being in there somewhere with all the other fun stuff you can do. It's never been a big thing for me. I've never owned a GIMP mask. I've never bought a fucking swing. I've used them, but she bought the fucking swing. But she also was the one that used the fuck. She was in the swing. Never mind. Anyway, that's shit Caitlyn probably doesn't want to hear.
But the point is, another time.
Yeah, another story for another time. But there's a lot in it that's fun, but it's not I don't know. To me, yeah, like you said, it's foreplay level stuff. It's not. You could do it once in a while, but it wouldn't be a regular occurrence. There's too many fun things you can do with your partner to just stick with one genre of thing.
Yeah. All right, let's get a little bit more into this. Where the fuck was I? We might get to something raunchy before we call it for today, because we still have some news to get through. A barely audible yes escaped from my lips. He took my hands and encouraged me to sit down with him on the steps. His lips soon crashed on mine with urgency. While we might have teased earlier, we finally gave in to our desires. It didn't matter that we were on the Plinko stairs. I wanted him now. His tongue darted in and out of my mouth, communicating that he felt very much the same. I shifted my hips into him, and his teeth grazed over so slowly down my chest. With his warm tongue, he encircled my nipple right over my shirt. I could feel it rise to meet him. What, her nipple? Oh, man. Speaking of nipples, God. I got reminded of something really fucking funny that happened to us in Siege. We were playing with like 4 people. Real quick side tangent. And this dude... some dude pulled like an ace, so he killed a bunch of people when he was like, it was like a 1v4, and he killed everyone in like a real quick succession. He just went full badass mode and killed everybody. And one dude on our team typed out in the all chat, he's like, damn, that shit was so sick, it gave me a nipple boner 2 Skittles deep. And I've never heard anyone explain anything like that in that way. And I just thought it was very special, and I wanted to share that all with you. That gave me
awesome. I might borrow that.
Yeah, use that next time you need to explain that to someone. That gave me a nipple boner that was 2 Skittles deep. That dude had some long ass and fat nipples. Like,
yeah, probably got like 2 thumbs sticking out.
No.
Caitlyn's like, God damn, you putting all this shit in my fucking head. I was good. No, I need therapy. I blame you. I blame you for all of this.
I do.
I could feel... Okay, he encircled my nipple right over my shirt. I could feel it rise to meet him, 2 Skittles deep. My body's way of begging for more. When he bit down, a flush of heat fucking traveled outward to my toes and to the tips of my ears. My groans of pleasure filled the entire studio. He then visited my other nipple, 2 Skittles deep, to pay it equal attention. My fingernails dug into his hair possessively, and I tugged him down. I wanted to hint to him to head next where I ached for him most. Fuck. This is raunchy, man. Where was I? Eager, aren't we? He laughed. His hands probed under my skirt and up to my thighs, leaving a trail of electricity in his path. He's the Flash. Sam, I didn't know you were Edward Cullen. We should get Sam on here to read this. I would like to get to a point where we just flip reading each time, so I'm not reading it exclusively, so people don't have to listen to my voice all the time. Where was I? He teased me over the fabric by oh my god, by circling my clit and pushing slightly at my core. I was suddenly so aware of how wet I was for him. Silky and frilly, you naughty thing. While he improved in my panty selection, he obviously wasn't too pleased they were still on me, for he quickly slid them down my legs and then tucked them in his coat pocket. Think of these panties as my parting gift. If this fine man wanted to keep my panties, who was I to deny him? Give me a couple more sentences, we'll be done here. Edward raised my left leg and placed it over the stair railing. With his firm hands, he wrapped his arms around my thighs, keeping me spread, and lifted me slightly toward him. My skirt was gathered at my waist, leaving me fully exposed. The touch of his tongue was soft at first, but soon grew more demanding. You intoxicate me, he whispered between my legs. Going to make you come hard. Alright, we'll leave it there. Tune in next week.
I love you have one sentence where it's like, you intoxicate me. And then the next minute it's like, I'm going to make you come hard. Like,
yeah, I'll make you come hard,
the
bitch.
Style clash is like so ridiculous.
Oh my god, yeah, it's pretty bad. It's pretty fucking bad. Hey, we're getting to raunchy shit though, dude. I've been waiting 3 weeks for this. So I hope you guys enjoyed that. I just closed the app I was not supposed to close. God forbid. I want to print out all our notes, but that would waste so much goddamn paper, and I'm not about that. So I resort to using my phone. All right, that was Kyle Ruins. So I hope you all enjoyed that. We're going to move forward onto some... Oh, never mind. We're going to move on to box office tops. We're going to talk about what movies have been doing good in the theaters, so you guys know, and you can share that knowledge with someone else that doesn't give a shit either. So, at number one, who can guess what is number one? It's actually new this week.
Don't tell me. Pacific Uprising, right?
Did you unmute your mic?
Yeah.
Okay.
Pacific Rim Uprising.
It is Pacific Rim Uprising. Good job. With 28 million.
Oh shit, I didn't know that was out.
Yeah, hell yeah, dude. American mecha anime, pretty much.
Yeah, but I wanted Charlie to be back, and he's not.
Yeah.
So...
Although I do like what's his name, the actor for Finn. Fuck, what's his name? Keon, you know?
John Boyega.
John Boyega. I like John Boyega. I think he's a good actor.
Yeah, I like John Boyega. As long as we don't talk about
Star Wars. I understand. Yeah.
Triggered.
So 28 million, really good. It's in its first week. It had a budget of 150 million, so that's doing good. That's sitting at number one. And number two, anyone guess what number two might be?
Did they explain what happened to what's his name?
I'm not entirely sure. I don't remember. It's been a long time since I've seen the first Pacific Rim. I think we watched it.
Him and that hot Chinese chick, they survived.
Yeah, they do. But this is way in the future, if I remember correctly. Like, way in the future. So I don't think they'd be alive, even if they did survive. Just age probably killed them. So I think it's way in the future. Number two is, in fact, Black Panther, sitting at 16 million, which is still crazy. On its 6th week, it's sitting at 630 million domestically. At number three...
Okay, look, people, the movie wasn't that good. Go watch another movie now. Come on.
Dude, it's like mob mentality. Yeah. At least it's still not a number one. At number three, we have I Can Only Imagine Again, sitting at number three, pulling 13 million. It's interesting because they didn't expect this movie to do well. They expected probably to pull like 2 million. We talked about it last week. It's like it was based on the number one Christian single, I Can Only Imagine by Mercy Me, blah, blah, blah. It's the story behind that song. They didn't.
Yeah, he's a country singer.
I don't really... Is Mercy Me country? I wouldn't really consider it country.
No.
I thought they were country.
No, I don't think so. I think they have a little bit... Yeah, I'd say they're contemporary.
I thought... Because the song sounded country to me. I only heard part of it, but... I
could say his voice could lead you to believe that it's country, because he's got that type of voice, but I don't think they don't really sing country music. It's not. Haven't
they been around for a while?
Mercy Me's been... How long do you think Mercy Me's been around, Caitlyn? Because we used to listen to him back in like what?
I seem to remember them being around in the 90s.
I don't think 90s.
I think
don't know exactly.
Well, maybe late 90s. I mean, late 90s.
You mind? Thank you.
I mind.
I can't do it because I'm fucking using my phone to do the show.
I'm asking Caitlyn. Yeah, normally we'd be sitting at the computer, but we're like off to the side. So, a good thing is with this setup, if I ever do get a better webcam that's not a piece of shit, then we could actually get video going again. Because we did once, which was a dumpster fire. But there is one video with us on there, at least me, Caitlyn, and Tyler. So you can see what we look like if that was ever.
No, don't tell them that.
I don't know what episode it was, so they'd have to go back and look.
1994.
The only thing I remember, what, 94?
Yeah.
Okay, you were right, 94. But they're not country. I don't think so. It might have been early. They might have had a country sound, but recently, no, I don't think so. So yeah, they only expect the movie to do like 2 million. So the theater count was low, but they added an additional like 600 theaters now. So. And then this week it pulled 13 million. So that's pretty cool. It's sitting at 38 million with a budget of only 7 million in its second week. At number 4, we have Sherlock Gnomes. With 10 million. Jesus.
Sherlock Gnome?
Yeah, it's like an animated film. 10 million.
I've never heard of it.
I've only seen like one trailer. It's got a budget of 59 million. It's in its first week. At number 5, we have Tomb Raider still holding out, which is pretty cool. Sitting at 10 million.
How shitty the movie is.
I've heard. Have you seen it?
It's pretty bad.
Oh, okay, interesting. Well, I mean, like, it's obviously bad because it's a video game movie. But if you were to compare it to other video game movies, would you say it was good?
No.
Okay. What do you think is the best, besides that Street Fighter one you keep referencing, what do you think is the best video game movie that we had that came out of Hollywood? Came out of Hollywood, best video game adaptation, you think?
Well, the Street Fighter thing actually was a movie, but they cut it up into a series. I
didn't think Assassin's Creed was awful. It wasn't offensive, but it wasn't good.
I enjoyed Prince of Persia. I had a lot of fun with Prince of Persia.
Okay, yeah, I remember Prince of Persia
despite the fact that I will go out on a limb and say I actually like the Mario Brothers movie, but I just enjoy it. It's fun.
Yeah, it's
a lot of fun to watch.
It's just charm. It's not necessarily a good
it's all
movie.
Charm. 100% charm.
Okay.
2,000% charm. It's so 1,000% charm. And I liked Mortal Kombat. Mortal Kombat's still a lot of fun to watch, even though it's cheesy.
Oh yeah.
But I would probably say the only one that I would be like, that was a really good movie. Was I really liked Gyllenhaal's performance as the prince. I thought that was good.
Yeah, I didn't think
I don't understand why people didn't like it, actually.
I could say that
it was a fun movie. I thought it stood on its own.
I could say that my favorite adaptation from any media coming from Hollywood, although not a lot of people liked it either, but I didn't think it was offensive and I thought it was okay, was Ghost in the Shell. Although it doesn't hold a candle to the fucking original, I still thought the adaptation was somewhat decent. Although a lot of people didn't like it. But
that's not a video game.
Well, no, I was just saying an adaptation in general. Although Ghost in the Shell had video games, but those didn't get adapted into movies. So that was number 5, Tomb Raider, pulling 10 million with a budget of 94 million, sitting at 41 million. So it's looking like it might make its budget, at least the threshold, but it's not going to be making money because you have to account for marketing and other things like that. I've heard that it wasn't awful, but I haven't seen it.
Overseas. That's not showing overseas.
Though. Oh yeah,
like
it's only domestic.
In China or something.
Yeah, it might. I wonder. Actually, I could check. Let me see real quick what it's making internationally. Internationally, it is sitting at. Holy shit! It's made $170 million worldwide.
Oh yeah, 90% of that's China.
Yeah, $211 million worldwide. Holy shit. Okay. They're making money. Oh, damn. That makes me interested. I wonder how I Can Only Imagine's doing then. I think it only shows domestically. I know Black Panther's made over $1 billion worldwide. Right now it's sitting at $1.25 billion worldwide. Jesus. For Black Panther. So, fuck me. That's a lot of money. So, and again, all you people out there, it's not the best thing since sliced bread. Give it a break. All right. So that was interesting. Those are your movies. What's been doing good in the box office theaters? Let us know if you guys have seen any movies that you thought were interesting. If you liked Tomb Raider, didn't like Tomb Raider, liked Uprising, didn't like Uprising, let us know. I'm always a fan of big-ass machines punching big-ass kaijus. I'm all about that shit.
I want to see it. It's weird for me to go back to a series. It's like it's not that different. I mean, they do that with anime all the time.
Yeah.
Look, it's a new sequel, and it's 300 years in the future, different people.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'll go see it. Fuck it.
You're playing a game that does that. Kuni did that. It's like half a century later, new story, new characters.
They do. There's 2 references to the original series.
Yeah, they retell
Ferdinand,
the entire story. Yeah. And they talk about Ferdinand.
And that test.
Yeah.
And the test.
We're going to talk about that when we get to Kuni.
But that was a bedtime story version of the original.
Yeah,
I mean, that was
simplified.
Diluting it. Yeah, super.
Okay, so next we have what to look for. We do have a few games coming out this week. We have Atelier. I think it's Atelier or Atelier. Atelier. It's like a person that makes potions, but not like magic-wise, but like alchemical concoctions. I think that's what an Atelier is. Lydie and Suel, The Alchemist and the Mysterious Paintings, coming to PS4, PC, and Switch March 27th. Far Cry 5 is coming out on PS4, Xbox One, PC, March 27th. MLB The Show 18 is coming out, PS4, Xbox One, or just PS4, my bad, March 27th. And Agony, which is interesting because that completely fell off the face of the earth. That was that indie game where you're like in hell, and it like depicts hell, but it's like a horror. That comes out on PS4, Xbox One, and PC March 30th. So I don't know how much that costs, but that game interested me because I thought it was cool to see someone's depiction of what they think hell would look like. And it's pretty fucking grotesque. And I like games that are like that, especially because it kind of has a slight H.R. Geiger vibe, kind of like Scorn. Although Scorn is very heavily inspired by H.R. Geiger. But
it's Atelier, by the way.
Oh, okay.
Atelier.
Close enough. Thank you.
It's French.
I played one of them back on PS4. I think they had it for there, and it was pretty cool. It was like a narrative based. It was like a fantastical RPG, but you weren't the people that were going out and killing. You were just running a potion shop. So I thought that was pretty cool.
That's an old series.
Yeah, I don't know how this new one is going to take the gameplay style, but I always like that idea that like it's the RPG setting, but you're not out killing monsters or saving the day. You're just living a normal life in a fantastical setting. I always thought that was cool. There's a bunch of games that do that shit though, but I always liked the idea because they even had an indie that I played where you like run a shop, although it's very simple, very arcadey. But you run a shop in a town that's an RPG town. So you sell swords and beginner potions and shit like that. And the whole game treats it as if you're like in a game playing. And it was cool. But I always thought that idea was awesome. Like a tycoon based in a fantastical RPG setting. So that's that. You guys got a couple of games to look forward to. I guess the biggest one on this list is Far Cry 5. I don't really intend on getting it because I don't want to play Far Cry. If that makes any sense. I thought Far Cry 3 was good, but every game after that was like the same thing, just in a new setting for the most part. And this just looks like more Far Cry, and I don't know. It doesn't appeal to me right now. Not enough to go spend a full price on it, like $60, so I might be skipping that. Every time I bring up a game to Tyler, he's like, maybe I'll get it when it goes for $5. So that's kind of like the... That's kind of like the feeling I have with this. Maybe if it's on sale, I have a big Ubisoft sale down the line or something.
I heard it's got full co-op, and that would be the only thing that would make me interested is being able to jump into a shooter with a friend. But Far Cry's mechanics have always been so shitty that it's not something I'm interested in. And their stories always suck. Always.
I thought 3 was okay, but it wasn't anything special. It wasn't anything special in any way, shape, or form.
It wasn't a story I would pay for. Let me put it that way.
Okay. Yeah, I think everything, but I think they've always been mediocre. I share your sentiments there. I've never really fully like this is one of my favorite games this year. It was never really that. It was just something to do to kind of pass the time. I'm not a fan of like the normal Ubisoft thing of like, let's take a big map that's open world, stick a bunch of like shitty objectives on it, and then you just kind of clear up the map eventually. I've never been really a fan of that because you can kind of see where they cut corners, and like usually quest design isn't up to par, or just the writing in general isn't very good, or even the world itself isn't very interactable. It's just kind of a bunch of houses that exist, and then there's some outposts that you take down. But I think that plagues a lot of the open world Ubisoft titles, and they kind of just take the formula, make small changes, and kind of dot them in different franchises. And I don't know, it's not something I'll do every year because it just doesn't appeal to me. But yeah, the same thing how you were saying, the fact that it's fully multiplayer, that was the only thing that appealed to me. And it looks kind of ridiculous. Like there's a bear named Cheeseburger that's actually a companion and shit. I thought that was just like, I like that ridiculous element, especially in something that's cooperative. But so that's that.
There's a bear named
Cheeseburger.
Cheeseburger.
And you get it as like a pet or like a companion. Like you have companions. I don't know if the companions still exist if you play multiplayer. I don't know. I haven't looked too much into the game. All right. We have a few articles for news. Nothing too big. And so we'll talk about that real quick. So God of War for PS4 has gone gold, which means in the developmental process, all that means is the fact that the game will come out. There's no way that it can be delayed to a further date. There's already a master copy of the game. It's already out, and it cannot be pushed back. That's what going gold means, at least in that setting. There's other things, like if you were to make a certain amount of sales, Shawn was explaining to me, you can do it that way. Though you can go gold in sales, but this is going gold developmentally. That means we have a master copy. Version 1.00 is ready and good to go and ready to get shipped out. So that's exciting. That means that our date that we have of April 20th is the deadline. It cannot be. We will get the game on that day. So that's exciting. So
wait, what game? Wait, what are we talking about?
God of War, the new God of War game.
Oh, okay.
So this is by
Kevin. Yeah, but you knew that was going to happen. God of War wasn't going to get pushed back.
Well, yeah. I don't know if it's been pushed back once already, or if that was something else I was thinking of. I'm not entirely sure. But you never know. Like Spider-Man, they're saying is 2018, but I could easily see that coming out early 2019.
Yeah, but that's licensed. That's different. That's not a first-party title.
Yeah. All right. So, as we said, God of War for the PS4 has gone gold, and this is by Kevin Knezevic of GameSpot. One of the most anticipated PS4 games of 2018 has now reached a critical milestone. On Twitter, the official PlayStation account announced that the upcoming God of War game has gone gold, meaning the game is now ready to be sent off for manufacturing. Along with the announcement, game director Cory Barlog, it's an awesome last name, shared his thoughts on reaching the milestone and reflecting on the game's development in a post on the PlayStation blog. Quote, "Going gold means so much more to me with this game," Barlog said. "It has been a long and exhausting journey filled with laughs, arguments, and a healthy dose of fear with a side of doubt. This was the scariest, most wonderful thing I had ever done, and I can honestly say it would never have been possible without the full-throated support of Sony and the tireless work of the incredible team at Santa Monica Studio. We have been through a lot together, and I would not change a thing." End quote. Unlike previous entries, God of War for PS4 serves as something for a reboot of the series. The game is rooted in Norse mythology rather than Greek like previous installments and tells a more personal tale focusing on Kratos and his son Atreus. It also features...
It's not a reboot, though.
It's weird. It's a soft reboot because they're changing game. Reboots are always odd because sometimes when people think reboot, they think like they're changing the entire story, but that's not necessarily always the case.
Well, a reboot is you're not. A remake is the exact thing that was done before, but you're just redoing it. But you're still following the same story bits. You're still using the same locations, the same characters, the same motivations. You're just remaking it with a new cast. You're refreshing it, but it's still the same story that was done before. That's a remake, like when they did the shot-for-shot remake of Psycho. It's a remake. It doesn't have to be shot for shot, but it's the same story, just being told with new actors. It's not black and white anymore. That's a remake.
Yeah.
You know, remakes are less common. A reboot is taking some story elements, taking the story before, but telling it differently, changing characters. You might redo Ghost, but instead of it being the guy that dies, it could be the girl. You could do huge departures from the original story content. That's a reboot. But a reboot is not... Then they did soft reboot, which still doesn't make sense to me because it's not a reboot at all, but they're calling it a reboot because it feels different.
The effort of a soft reboot is usually when you're trying to progress. All right, you're not gonna say goodbye, Kim?
All right, guys, I gotta go.
Is it poop time already?
It is not poop time. She has to go for the night.
I have a speech tomorrow and an exam.
Did you? You didn't even unmute your mic, kid.
I have a speech tomorrow and an exam at 8:00. So
school stuff. That's fine.
Well, I miss you. Hugs and kisses on my pig farts.
Yeah, I'll see you guys later.
Damn straight.
Have a great
Deuces. Yes.
I'll see you on the next one.
We shall carry on without you, our commander in chief.
I believe in you guys.
I believe in you.
Thanks. Bye.
Make sure you actually mute it, please. Good? Okay. I think like the term for soft reboot, it's a change. It's like heavy changes made to a series in newer installments too. It's weird because again,
I just think it's kind of oxymoronic because you're playing. I mean, even if the gameplay is different, it may be a different style game, but it's still a direct sequel. I mean, this is a direct sequel. Kratos, it's a few years later. He's older. He's had a kid. It's a time skip.
Yeah.
Same Kratos, same planet. You know, he's still immortal.
One thing that's weird for me is I didn't know that they were changing the mythology it was based on. I didn't know we were switching to Norse from Greek. I find
he pretty much annihilated Greece. So
well, that makes sense. But like, I just never thought of the fact that, like, at least with mythology wise, that the gods can all just kind of exist within different realms of each other, and Kratos is just hopping on the God Express to move between like universes and stuff.
Yeah, I don't know how they're going to explain that, because according to the first games, the Greek gods were the gods. That's the way the games were directed, is that these gods are the gods of the entire world. They just happen to be focusing on what was going on in Greece, because the Greeks believed that they were the gods of all existence. They didn't believe they were just the gods of Greece.
Yeah.
So it's kind of interesting. I wonder if they're going to do it where these gods have these little macrocosms where they're all powerful in Kentucky, but just Kentucky. You know, like these are the gods. If you're there, they are omnipotent and omniscient. But if you happen to go a couple countries over, you visit Japan, fucking, you know, the Lord Jack Daniels can't touch you. You know,
Lord Jack Daniels. To finish the article real quick, it also features a markedly different combat system, as well as a cool one-shot cinematic technique that represents the entire story as one uninterrupted shot without cuts or fades. God of War releases for PS4 on April 20th. The game will take roughly 30 hours to finish, making it much longer than its predecessors, and Barlog confirmed it won't include microtransactions. So, I'm excited for the game. I've not been a huge fan of the God of War series, but I think this is a good time to jump in. I've played previous titles. I played the PSP one. I played God of War 2, and I was a fan of the kind of hack and slash style combat, but I do also like this new combat. I think it looks good. I've heard a lot of things of them trying their damnedest to make sure that this combat feels as smooth and as perfect as they can make it, so that you're having fun while you're playing. And if the narrative is good on top of that, we have a possible Game of the Year contender sitting right here. So I'm definitely excited. It's only a month away. I'm excited to get into it and see what they have in store for us. So I thought that was nice that it's finally gone gold. We have a master copy. It's being shipped out for production. We're going to have the game in a month. So that's cool. Moving on. Got a couple more articles, really small things. Apparently, Ark Evolved or Survival Evolved will be coming to the Nintendo Switch, which I did not think would ever happen. But let me read this article real quick. We got Chris Perrier of GameSpot. Dinosaur survival game Ark Survival Evolved has already made the transition from PC to consoles, and later this year will also make a move to something a bit more portable. Developer studio Wildcard has announced the Nintendo Switch version of the game is officially in the works. Details on the Switch edition of Ark are currently scant, but Wildcard confirmed it will offer the same suite of features as the existing console versions on PS4 and Xbox One. The game is due out on Switch sometime this fall as a physical and digital release, and it was showcased during an Epic Games keynote during the Game Developers Conference this week. As Ark quickly became a major success story after it launched on Steam Early Access in mid-2015. Blah, blah, blah. I'm sure a lot of you know what Ark is, but coming to the Switch, that's interesting, especially for... I I know they're trying to make this console more of like a at home, do it at home, do stuff at home, but you can also take it with you on the go kind of console. But I use it almost single-handedly for portable gaming. I barely ever dock the fucking thing unless I need to charge it. And in every other scenario, I'm either at school, at work, in the car, doing something on a road trip, and I'll be playing on the go. So for a game that is like multiplayer based, I can't see myself picking this up because I won't sit. If I was going to get it, why not just pick it up on the console or PC? I already have it on PlayStation 4, and I got tired of it already. But hey, it gives something
it introduces toxicity to a whole new group of gamers.
Hell yeah, dude. That game is hella toxic.
Yeah, that game has to have the most, and it's not console or computer limited. It doesn't matter. That has to be the most poisonous. I mean, oh god,
it's just the way
it is reviled by people across gaming everywhere.
It doesn't pertain to a certain platform because the game itself breeds that type of behavior. It's almost horrible. Like be toxic or be affected by someone that is being toxic. It's either kill or be killed. There's nothing you can really do about it. And it just leads to a lot of griefing, a lot of people being dickheads and stuff like that, and not giving other players a chance, especially on an older server. You're just fucked. I like the way Rust kind of does it, where every couple weeks they'll just wipe the entire server, and then everyone's dropped back to base level. So you don't have gigantic fortresses of people with mounted machine guns all mowing down newer level people, because everyone eventually gets dropped back to level 1 and has to restart and rebuild for that week. Now that seems annoying, but it prevents what Ark has become. And I think
Rust was built around that. So when you get in, it's not like a disappointment. You know you've got a certain amount of time to try and conquer as much as possible.
Yeah.
Ark had so much potential, and they just mishandled the fuck out of it. Like, I have never seen a project besides the Vita get mishandled by its creators so badly. It had so much potential, man. Ark is such a pretty game, and it's so much fun when it works. And it just doesn't. It feels very weird to. Huh?
I don't know about pretty. I never necessarily thought it was pretty.
I use the term pretty. Well, no, let me not. It's cool. It looks cool. Oh, okay. There's a lot of cool looking stuff in it.
Yeah.
It's not ugly. I mean, it has, but it's just that whole game just feels like it makes me disappointed just thinking about it.
Yeah.
Because we had so much fun making things, and you don't like. I mean, I still want to go back and do like just a PvE server, but it just feels like I'm not getting the entire experience, because the thing that you dream about with Ark is getting together and competing with other clans, and you can't do that in PvE. But on the other hand, it's harder for them. By the way, they can still fuck with you in PvE. But you can't have the big wars and stuff in PvE, but you can't fucking do that in PvP, because the moment you spawn in, they kill you and take your shit. Or they wait for 2 hours and then they kill you and take your shit. One of the clan will come by and go, hey, we're not going to hurt you. We're cool. Here, have a sandwich. And then they leave and don't tell the other guy in the clan, or the other guy in the clan doesn't give a shit. He flies by and kills you and takes your shit. So you lose thousands of hours worth of fucking...
Yeah, and these are all, mind you, if you could not tell, personal experiences. We definitely had quite an interesting... I remember we tamed our first dinosaur, and we were just on the beach trying to get him back home, but we were on the complete opposite side of the map. And I'm just standing there, sitting in a bush, talking to him. I don't remember. I think his name was Larry. We named him something like that.
Yeah, it was Larry.
I think I've told
Larry
this
Jr.
story. I told this story, I think, before already. But I just turn around and hear a noise and see Tyler absolutely get mauled by a fucking cougar bear and a dude riding on it. And then he just proceeds to run off. And I'm sitting in a bush with Larry standing next to me like, Larry, don't go, please. We need to keep you safe. You need to stay the fuck here. And
then Larry got killed by an ankylosaur. That we aggroed.
Oh my gosh, yes. We accidentally pissed off a turtle. So Larry...
A non-combat dinosaur runs in against another non-combat dinosaur that just happens to be good at killing shit.
Yeah, and they have like a fucking slap noodle fight. And I'm just screaming at Larry, no! Don't do it, Larry. It's not worth it. And then Larry dies. Oh, man.
Because you forgot to go in and fuck with Larry's AI.
Yeah. All right.
remember you were trying to do it while they were fighting, getting beat up while you were trying to go into the menu.
Yeah.
See, the thing is art can be so much fun. It's a pity that Wild Card had so much potential and they just wasted it and made such an a pleasant game that's so unpleasant to have to live in.
Yeah. All right. Let's move on. Let's not cry over spilled a dinosaur feces. Let's move on to the next article.
Could have spilled $30 is what it was.
Apparently, there will be a Smash Brothers tournament at E3. So this got me interested. I'm not going to E3, but this just be cool to see. This is by Steve Watts of GameSpot. Nintendo is holding a Smash Brothers Invitational Tournament at E3, giving our first look at competitive play on the Switch. The tournament will take place June 11th to the 12th in Los Angeles at E3, which kicks off on June 12th. Oh, E3 kicks off on June 12th. Given Nintendo's tendency to debut its E3 announcements in a Nintendo Direct just before the show kicks off, it's likely that our first look at Smash Brothers for Switch will come out just before the exhibition tournament. Running alongside the Smash Bros. Tournament will be the first Splatoon 2 World Championship since its launch last year. Nintendo is hosting U.S. and Canada.
Canada,
right next to Sea Oak City, right? Or however you pronounce
it. Canada was Akira, by the way.
Oh my gosh. I was a lot of reading and I was trying to read and hurt. U.S. and Canada online qualifiers through Battlefy, I don't know what the fuck that is. Open qualifiers will take place April 21st at 11 a.m. Pacific time, and finals will wrap up April 23rd at 8 a.m. Open qualifiers will take place April 23rd at 11 a.m. Pacific time, and finals will wrap up on April 28th at 8 a.m. Pacific time. The competition will test your skills in both Turf War and ranked battle modes. Teams of 4 must be composed of players aged 13 and up. Sorry, little Timmy, you won't be able to play. So yeah, that'd be cool, and I'd love them to stream this shit. I'd watch the fuck. Everyone would watch the fuck out of this because everyone's so excited to see the new Smash. So I'm sure this will get a shitload of a following if they do something like this at E3. It's got me excited. I'm excited to see what this new game will look like, what we'll see from this new Smash, and I can't wait to get my grubby little sweaty hands on it. So
I was thinking, and I figured out how Nintendo could make up for what they did with the Wii U.
How's that, Shawn?
Okay, so it's a stretch, and they better fucking budget price the damn thing. But they create an add-on for the Switch docking station.
Okay.
That is, it could just be a little box, but it's got a disc drive, and you can put your Wii U discs in, and just sync up the Wii U tablet, and boom, you can play your Wii U games on the Switch.
That'd be cool. Or they just release a fucking virtual market. And they're not
going to go back through and recode all those games for the.
I know, but they had an emulator on the Wii U. Just make a Wii U emulator. I'm sure they can do something like that.
But a lot of those games needed the tablet.
You have touchscreen on the Switch. The Switch can be your tablet. I don't know. I would like to. I just want to see a virtual store, and hopefully that's something they introduce around the time they introduce their new online service. I hope they don't limit it to having to pay for the online service to access it. I can't imagine them doing that. They lose out on a lot of money.
No, just to play the games online. Here, you could buy this game, but don't try and play it.
Yeah.
Unless you give us the $10 a month or whatever the fuck it is.
No, it's like $20 for a year. It's really cheap. I'm trying to think what I was going to say.
It's cheaper than what we pay, $60 a year for PSN?
$60 for PSN and Xbox. What was I going to say? Fuck. I don't know. I'm excited to see Smash on the Switch. Hopefully we get a pretty lengthy roster. I've heard a bunch of rumors. Apparently Microsoft is okay with Banjo-Kazooie coming to the Switch. So that'd be cool if we could get Banjo-Kazooie in a Smash game. Or because... I don't know, just something along those lines. I just want a big roster. I love fighting games with huge fucking rosters, because there's just so much opportunity to see crazy battles take place. And I know that's difficult because you have to make a big roster full of uniquely individual characters, which doesn't always happen.
Dude, that means we might actually get a Banjo 3.
That'd be cool. I mean,
that would be heaven on earth, is what that would be.
Rare so is technically back with Sea of Thieves, although it's pretty much just a disguised early access game. Because there's literally nothing fucking to do. How
much of Rare is left? Because most of it's just a shell company.
Yeah, they make man, how the great have fallen.
It's a brand. That's all it is now. It's a fucking brand. But
can you imagine going from making
the old guys back to work on what they're good at?
Yeah. Can you imagine going from making one of the biggest games on the Nintendo 64 to making Kinect games?
God, no, I try not to. I try not to think about that, but there's a reason why Nintendo fired them. Let's put it that way. There's a reason why Nintendo sold them and bought Treasure.
Yeah.
Treasure has made some of the best, most premier shooters and technical shooters of the last 20 years. So I don't know. The only thing is they bought Treasure, but what has Treasure made for Nintendo since they bought them? Last thing I saw was Radiant Silvergun, and that was Dreamcast era. That was before. I haven't seen anything by Treasure since then. They make awesome games, but I haven't seen anything.
I don't know.
I also haven't researched it, so I should probably do that.
What was I gonna say? I keep losing my train of thought. Let's move on. Let's talk a little bit before we call an episode. Let's talk a little bit about Ni no Kuni 2. Our experiences, our likes, dislikes. Without spoiling anything. 3
complaints.
Without spoiling anything major, of the story at least, we could still talk about gameplay elements and stuff like that. Real quick, before I unleash Shawn to do his thing, because he's been thinking about it a lot. One thing I like this, I want to say, right off the bat, is if you like JRPGs or just RPGs in general, or you like Studio Ghibli and their art style, I think you kind of not necessarily owe it to yourself, but I think this would be a cool experience for just you as a person, if that's something that sounds good to you. Because this product overall is quality. It has its issues here and there, but for the most part, it's a very solid game. There's not really anything big that either me or Shawn have huge problems with to the point where we'd stop playing. We're still both very much enjoying it. So whatever we might come to say, it's just us analyzing parts of the game, trying to give you guys an idea of some of the issues that we've come across. We're not beating on the game at all. We both actually enjoy it a fuckload, and there's a lot to it that's good, but I think the biggest thing here is the presentation, because the gameplay mechanics have been streamlined from the first title. So if you really liked the first title for what it was, you may not like it as much as the first title, just because the combat has been streamlined. The Pokemon element does not exist anymore. It's kind of been switched. I joke, but it's kind of been switched for a Lemmings element with the Higgledies, which is my favorite word of the last couple weeks. I love the word Higgledy. It's just so much fucking fun to say. But instead of collecting Pokemon, you fight with your characters, and you have the Higgledies, which are these little fucking adorable sprites that kind of follow you around, and they could assist in battle. And they kind of group around the battlefield, and they can assist you in battle. But again, the music and the art design are fucking fantastic. Although the music placement in some areas has been a little weird. You have one area you're trying to capture you're trying to help a character in Cloudfoil Canyon, I think it's called. And the first time you go through the canyon, the music makes sense. You're kind of on the clock. You're trying to, well, not legitimately, but the idea story-wise is you're on the clock. You're trying to save this person that's been captured before she gets eaten, and save her and bring her back. So the first time, the music makes sense, kind of. Although you're not always in combat, you're kind of just exploring while the music is going ham the entire time. But the second time you visit, the music is still like that, but you have no rush this time. So it's kind of off-putting.
To give people an idea, picture One Winged Angel, the Sephiroth song, playing while you're just going on an overworld map in Final Fantasy VII.
Yeah, it kind of puts you off. The song itself is good, and a lot of the music again, to kind of create that Ghibli feel, which you'll hear me say a lot, is all it's all orchestral for the most part. There's not much electronic in there, although I'm sure there's some here and there.
Yeah, I don't think there's been any.
I haven't heard any. We're not entirely sure. We're both about 10 hours in.
I'm like
you might
30
be a little
bit
farther. Yeah, because you've been going ham on the exploration. I'm about 10, I think. Oh, yeah. 10 to 15, I think I'm at. But
yeah, I'm 30 and a half hours. Okay. 30.
But what am I trying to say here?
Nope, 32 hours. Sorry.
But the music, fantastic. It might not always properly perceive the feel of what's actively happening, but besides that, oh my god, it's really good. Like, again, to keep the Ghibli feel, pretty much all orchestral is the right word.
Dude,
I'm really fucking up language. Yeah, I'm fucking it up. And a lot of the tracks I find catchy. They fit the mood for the most part. And it's just that helps again with the presentation. The other side being the art, or the art style, the art direction. Very good. Again, it's all to portray the feel of Ghibli. If you don't understand what I'm saying, that it's a animation company out of Japan, made films like the bigger films that have been bigger in the States have been like My Neighbor Totoro, Spirited Away, Princess Mononoke. Like those films, that art design, if you've seen any of them, picture that art design in your head and you have a game that follows that art direction. And I think it follows it pretty well. And you can see a lot of inspirations from other movies. Like one of the characters, Tawny, she looks like she could be the daughter to Princess Mononoke. The way that she dresses, the way that she is, you get that vibe from her. And that those two things are so well done. It just makes, for me at least, being a fan of Ghibli and being a fan of older RPGs, that appeals to me a lot. And it really raises my enjoyment of the game a lot. So that's why I was saying, if you like either of those elements, either old RPGs or the Ghibli films, this is something I think you owe to yourself to try and play through, because it's definitely a solid product. Shawn will explain some of the issues he has. I don't really have any heavy issues. I kind of agree with some of what he says when he does go into it, and I'll point out what later. But for the most part, I'm not there. They'd be very small, like practically minimal gripes, and a lot of that is, I think my biggest issue is the game is a little easy, although there are some areas where it's difficult, like that knowledge quiz we were talking about earlier, which I thought was a really cool puzzle because it's retelling the story of the first game, but you're doing a puzzle to do it, and the final puzzle is reenacting the final boss fight. So it almost feels like a puzzle, but a raid puzzle, because you're enacting a boss fight, and there's like, it's really simple. It's just a puzzle, but it feels like you're doing a boss fight with a puzzle. It's really cool. And I enjoyed it a lot, although I got stuck on the first part because I was trying to get all the bonus orbs, and I just kept getting fucked over. I just could not figure out the first time because I kept screwing myself over. But eventually we figured out with the assistance of two of my friends, and we got through it. But the game in combat, at least, it's quite easy. I have not come into any really difficult issues besides some of the higher level. They'll have like enemies that are like have a purple haze on them, and they'll be a higher level than you by like a lot, usually like 5 to 10 levels, and those will quickly stomp your shit in if you're a lower level. But anything around your level, for the most part, you won't really have an issue with, unless there's a shitload of ads. I've only died like twice, and that was like early on in the initial intro, because I was trying. There's like a stealth element, and I kept getting caught because I wanted to see if I could kill all the enemies, and I kept dying because I just wasn't equipped for the situation, which will be where most of your deaths will come with. If you try to fight a higher level enemy, you'll probably die, but you won't really run into like heavy resistance with the enemies that are closer to your level. But besides that, the combat is fun. I enjoy the combat actually quite a bit. I like the elements that they bring into the combat with the Higgledies and the Tactic Tweaker, which are stuff you unlock later. But the combat's very streamlined. It's not a turn-based RPG. It's action RPG. I've talked to a few people that thought it was turn-based, but it's an action RPG. It similar along the lines of the Tales of games, like Tales of Asteria, Tales of Berseria, Tales of Symphonia, those games, or
the later Tales games.
Yeah, or the Kingdom Hearts games. Kingdom Hearts
Star
games.
Ocean.
Yeah, Star Ocean
is like that.
So,
yeah.
But again, my probably my only gripe is that element that is easy. It'd be cool if they, again, I was talking to Shawn about it. We were talking over text, and although it's a really cheap way of adding difficulty, it still adds difficulty. Just fucking with some of the values. You could easily patch in a harder difficulty by making it where enemies have more health and you take more damage, or you don't have as much mana, or you don't have as much health, or you don't do as much damage. And you can mess with any of these parameters, and you can make another difficulty mode, like the developers can. Now, I'm not saying that you can as a player, but the developers can do something like that, patch it in, and then you have a hard mode. Again, it's a cheap way of adding difficulty, but still, just that choice would be nice to be able to do that, just to make it where you're not blowing through every enemy that you come into contact with. But then that's my only gripe. Besides that, even though the fact I am kind of going through it, I feel like the game itself is fun enough to keep me playing. I enjoy the story. I enjoy the characters for what they are. There's not a huge level of development of the characters. I feel more of the focus is kind of learning who the characters are themselves. Like you won't like go, at least in my current, we haven't finished the game obviously, but I haven't seen any characters go through like a heavy arc where they change, but I've seen small things that the characters do that to reveal who they are, more of who they are, kind of like you were actually getting acquainted to them. You're learning more about them, ways they act in certain situations, the way they think in certain situations, and I think that's nice, but I haven't seen a character go through a change. I'm just they're unveiling their personality to me. So that's kind of how I've seen how the story's been going with the characters. The characters so far are good. I like Tawny and I like Roland, and I like the main character. I know Shawn doesn't really like him too much because he's kind of like your typical young whiny kid, which makes sense in this situation if you've played the game, the story. I don't want to spoil too much, but in his situation, he's naive.
They don't make it clear what his fucking age is, and he looks like he's 8 years old, which is extreme even for manga or anime. Normally, if you have an 8-year-old hero, they're on a bicycle and they're trying to it's very different when you write a story from the perspective of an 8-year-old. I don't know. I don't know. I'll get into it later, though. His age is very indeterminate, which kind of annoys me.
They do reference him as a child, though. We just don't know what age he is. We know that he was at an age where he could have been a legitimate king, but again, it being in an old like fantasy situation, there's been times where that's not like something that you wouldn't see, especially if the king prior happens to die quickly or whatever. So besides that, I don't have any. I'm really enjoying the game. I'm excited to get back to it, learn more about it, figure out what's coming down the line. There's some things that I'm kind of hoping for. I don't know if I'll necessarily get them. I think it'd be really cool if at some point we get a huge time jump to see the main character fully established as a king. Even if the game ends that way, just to see him older, I think would be really fucking cool. I'm a huge fan of stuff like that happening. Big time skips, because then it's almost like you're forcing an arc, kind of. You just didn't see the arc, but you're forcing a change in a character, because it wouldn't make sense to have someone go from 8 to 32 and still act like a child. They have to be more mature because that's just how we are. So I like seeing that because it's a quick way of, and I just feel like it's a good way to finish a story that's been like a huge adventure, of seeing the person that has been attempting to do something complete that, and then seeing them established in what they were attempting to do. I always think that's really cool. So, Shawn, what do you think of this game?
I love this game. I'm getting my gripes out of the way. The game is attempting to do a lot, and it does all of it decently. It doesn't do all of it perfectly, or even beyond. It doesn't do it badly. Let's put it that way. Like it very much borrows from its predecessors. This game feels like, for anybody that's played a good amount of video games, it feels like we're playing this on a PlayStation 2, but it's got this massive facelift. When you played games, especially like action and adventure games, which is what this is, or RPG games like, say, Wild Arms or things of that nature, or Final Fantasy, you would go into a city that was either pre-rendered or 3D, with polygons, but you couldn't enter most of the shops, the buildings, the decorations, the background. It's all window dressing. There's like, in your standard JRPG or adventure game, you could go into some of the houses, some of the shops. Most of the games, they were fairly limited. I'm not talking about your sprite-based stuff. I'm talking rendered or 3D. There was only certain things you could go into, and the rest of it was just pretty to look at. This game is like that. When you go into social areas where there's NPCs, it's very rare that you're going into a building. It's very rare that you're going into a shop. A lot of them are stalls where you don't even go inside. So you've got all this gorgeous dressing, which is very nostalgic for me for playing games on the PlayStation 2, when due to memory limitations, you could make a really big city, but you really couldn't have a lot in it. So, disc limitations and all that. So that part is very nostalgic to that. The way it plays is very much like a lot of games back then. This game is appealing to me in a very similar way that Nier was, in terms of how the game plays. It's like, I didn't have to read an instruction book. I didn't even need a tutorial. I immediately knew what I was doing because I played games that did this sort of thing before, which is nice. And they put... unfortunately, they dumbed the battle system down from the first game, which is unfortunate, because I like deep battle systems. It is fairly simplistic. It doesn't take a lot. When you pick up a weapon, you're more than likely to know what it is. You'll have some armor pieces. We'll say like gutsy boss's boots, or bulwark brooch, or secure bone mail. Those are a little bit fuzzier, but you'll pick up a lot of things that are like fiery sword or chiller bow or whatever. They make it very straightforward, and all you have to do is highlight something, and boom, you know what it does. But there's not a lot of you get most of your abilities early on in the game. It's very simple to play. That's not a drawback. That just means it's very easy to get into. There's not a lot to learn until later. And even then, most people who play this game will have played the other games that it borrows from. So it's not like anything's going to shock you. What bothers me is that I don't know the ages of the characters, and they don't really do much to give you any character progression. I mean, there's little bits, but the characters are pretty much who they are when you meet them. They don't change much. It's very much like an action movie. An action movie doesn't have a lot of character progression because it's focusing on action. It's not like a drama. So when you meet your hero, that's pretty much the same guy you're going to end the movie with. This essentially works that way. So I look at it less like a fantasy RPG or an adventure RPG where I've got this super dense story with lots of twists and turns and lots of character progression like you would get in your standard Final Fantasy fare, and more of this is a fantasy, this is a bedtime fairy tale. That's exactly what this is. It is a bedtime fairy tale. The story is very much an all ages story. It's a very simple story. The villains wear black, the good guys wear white. You have some character development. You get to watch this young king learn about how to run his country and what the smart thing is to do. But again, all of his progression is fairly simplistic. You could say that you see him grow from a scared princeling to a king, but that growth is much clearer in other games that have the same kind of idea. So when I say that the story is very simple, I don't mean that as necessarily a bad thing. It's just this game is more for me of something light. It's something that I can easily dip into and enjoy it for what it is, which is wonderful. but it doesn't involve me. It doesn't trigger any of my OCDs. It doesn't trigger any of my neuroses. I don't have to pour over strategy guides to figure out how to do this or how to do that, this multi-intensive boss fight, or Jesus, I can't finish this game because I didn't find this one item. I'm going to find the shit in this game. I have no doubt. It is designed in such a way, in both its narrative fashion and the way that you play the game, that it's very linear and not in a bad way. So I know that I'm going to cover all my bases. One of the reasons why I put off playing Persona 5 for so long and Persona 4 for so long and finishing Final Fantasy 15 is I know that it's going to trigger a lot of my completist needs, that I'm going to have to pour all this work into it, and it's going to eat up a ton of my time, and I'm just going to fucking disappear for a while. And this game doesn't do that to me. You know, it's very refreshing. It's like a palate cleanser.
Yeah.
I guess that's the best way I could say it. It's like a palate cleanser. It's great for that. It's simple. It's easy to understand. It has a sweet, simple story. It's not too involved, but it's very good. You know, but if you look at it as it is a bedtime fairy tale, it's a bedtime story, and you're getting to play through this, you know, kind of epic fantasy through the, you know, that, like if you were 8 and your grandfather sat down and told you this, you know, and spent like 20, 30 minutes and telling you this fantasy story, or reading a book to you, that's what you're getting to play, something like that. If you remember back to that, and that's why it captures me, is because it has that same magic that Don Bluth films did, that Disney did before Disney turned into a complete machine, that, you know, Ghibli always has. Is it's a simple story. It's not terribly complex. You know, the characters aren't terribly complicated, and it knows how to tell it well.
Yeah.
And the mechanics are fun. The graphics are beautiful. They're cute. They're fun. The sense of humor is sweet. There's nothing gut busting.
It's so fucking pretty, dude. Like the effects, like there's with the combat system, there's something called Zing, where you get 3 weapons that you can swap between, and they build a charge as you use them or as you take damage. I don't know if it's as you take damage. I think the mana fills as you take damage. Your mana refills as you dodge, attack, or take damage. I got that shit maxed out on the Tactic Tweaker, so I could just spam skills. But with your Zing fully done, it will add an additional effect. And just the effects in this game are really pretty. Like, they just look good. Like, damn. And like Shawn was saying, it's an older RPG with like a modern layer slapped over it, and it looks good. It definitely does. And again, I think a lot of it is, I think you explained it very well, where it's something simple. It's easy to get into. The story's not intensively hard. There's not like a bunch of lingo they're throwing at you. And it's very charming because it's just simple. Yeah. And I think the biggest way to explain it is that if you're reading through like a kindergarten book or something like that, where there aren't too many heavy details, and it just tells.
Say kindergarten. I'd say like something like a castle in the attic, or like those classic kids fantasies that are.
What's that one? Where the wild beasts go, or some shit like that?
Where the wild things are.
This
is about even Where the Wild Things Are has some deep undertones. This doesn't. This is just very straightforward fairy tale. Yeah. I mean, the kid wants to build a kingdom where people can live happily ever after. If that
and
doesn't
no one
spell
fights.
It out for you, I don't know what it was. Yeah.
There'll be no war anymore. That's what my kingdom's going to be about. And I'm like, okay, have fun with that.
And then when he comes to the conclusion of, well, I mean, if I just am king of everything, then nobody has a reason to fight. And I'm like, oh shit. Like this, there are certain little complexities that will pop up that are more mature, but it's rare. I mean, the story is made to be palatable to everyone.
I thought the Gold Paw arc as a whole, I thought that, although again not too deep, but I liked the idea of a whole city. Again, minor spoilers, nothing major here, but a whole city that's built around fortune, luck, and then obviously political meaning or stuff like that slipping in. You'll have corruption. Obviously, it happens everywhere. So hey, people are cheating the system. So you got officials using trick dice and shit like that. And I just thought all that. I just thought it was cool, and the fact that these people have such a blind faith to follow, both because there's kind of a little bit of a religion aspect in it too, but to follow this so blindly that they'll let themselves not even try and think, oh
Question
man,
it,
our taxes have been increased by 6-fold for the past 2 months. Oh shit, that's a third month. Oh well, Lady Luck is not on our side, and no one thinks to think, oh man, maybe we're being fucking cheated here. I just thought that whole arc was really cool. I like that, even though they set up Pugnacious, or the bad guy of that arc, to be bad, that it wasn't necessarily him. It's like he was trying to do good initially, but his intentions got clouded through outer influences and stuff like that. I like that whole arc. I thought it was cool. And the final fight, although again it was pretty easy, I thought it was a cool fight. And
even that's a fairly good example of taking dark subject content and watering it down so that it's palatable to kids.
Yeah.
And it's weird because this isn't a kid's game. It doesn't play. I mean, it plays to the point where I think if you were, like, say, middle school, you could play this game, but I think it could be tough for somebody in elementary school, maybe.
Yeah. I mean,
but
when we were young, we played some tough fucking games.
But, I mean, it starts off with, like, New York being killed by a nuclear bomb. So, like, I'm not spoiling anything. It's the first 5 seconds.
It is the first game. 5 seconds, but like that.
Well, of a city, it's a city gets killed by a giant explosion. Yeah. Obviously, thousands of people die, and then boom, like cutesy, happy prettiness. I think at times it has a slight identity crisis with is in what it wants to be.
I think
a little bit, but
I think it depends on how if they do decide to develop that scenario. If we hear more about that. And that gets fully fleshed out, then I think that this could go along the lines of something like, oh, this is kind of a cute thing, but there's an underlying, like, holy shit, there's rough shit going on here.
Yeah, they gloss over the really bad things, anything that might be really bad. Like, characters are like, wow, that really sucks, and then they just never talk about it again. Like, it's very confusing to me that it's handled that way. I think that comes back to the things I have a complaint about it. My first complaint is that when you finish an encounter, you have a victory screen where it pauses for like a half a second. Why the fuck are you doing that? Like, I realize that they're putting in a lot of, like, they have a lot of elements they kind of just stuck in there just to appeal to RPG fans. But if I'm not in a turn-based encounter type screen thing going on, why are you doing that? Why, like... Because you have two kinds of combat screens. You have the kind of combat screen, which is an overworld screen where you're going over the map, which, thank you God, I've got an overworld to explore. Thank you for that. That's another throwback to old RPGs and old action-adventure games. You have an overworld. When you're in the overworld, you have a combat screen.
Yeah.
Right? There's a reason for that, to go to a combat screen. But when you're in a dungeon-type environment, or... like any kind of where you're not in the overworld, there is zero reason to have an intro or an exit.
But you see those. You see those often though. Like in like Tales of Zestiria had it. Like you'd have a bit of a pause every time and the whole game was technically a big dungeon. You didn't have an overworld. You move between a semi-open world. You would walk. It would be instanced combat like we see here. You'd walk in. It'd take a little bit of time for like enemy health bars to show up and stuff like that. You'd finish the fight, everyone would do a victory pose, XP would be tallied, and then you'd be out of that instanced fight. I see it often in instanced fights like this. I mean, again, it makes sense.
It doesn't make it any less annoying. It doesn't feel right in the context of what I'm doing here, especially when there's another room like right over there with more enemies. I just run over and attack. Why are you doing this? Like, that's just a minor gripe. Again, most of the complaints I have are minor.
Yeah, I understand it is minor. I just don't see how it is a minor. But I know you're very anal about these type of things, just in general. And one of the reasons
I'm ready to go and kill the next room worth of enemies, and you got to sit there and pause and go, "You're victorious, motherfucker! I watched the last one die. I know I'm victorious." Like, it's different when it's like Final Fantasy, and I just kill the last thing. It's like da 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 da. Okay, yeah, that's a menu-driven, turn-based scenario. You're going to tell me it's over. I get it, but it just doesn't seem necessary here. But the other problem I have here is I don't understand. I don't know. It's the they really don't define the characters very well. Like, but again, they do in a fairy tale bedtime story sense. But for a long, protracted story, like I know that that one character is adventurous and she was a pirate, and she's not afraid of things. That's all I know.
Yeah.
I know that the king, his father, died, and something happened with his kingdom. And he wants to be a good king. That's all I know. I've been playing it for 30 hours. I'm halfway through the game, and that's all I know about the character. Like it's very two-dimensional. There's not any complexity of the story. And I would like to know more about these characters I played with, especially, the one that witnessed a city going under. Like, that should have been a traumatic experience. Well, yeah. And the guy just was like, well, that sucked. Okay, well, I guess I'll work with you now. Like, it's just very strange to me.
I don't know if because I don't know. I think it was like a thing where he was dead by the time it happened, because it never showed him after like the car crash, everything that happened. It never shows him realize what's happened. He's just in another world. All he knows is, he even says it, all he knows is he was heading to the summit, and then he's here. He never recalls an explosion. He never recalls watching a city get burned to the ground. So I don't know if he knows exactly what's happened, because it's never openly stated in dialogue. We know.
All right, I'll accept that. But he wakes up in another world, and it takes him
it's
all
weird.
of 10 seconds to go, oh, you've got cat ears and you're not human. Well, that's cool. Yeah. Let's go protect you from bad guys. Like,
yeah.
Any other game, the guy would have a fucking panic attack, and then there would be this big comedic scene where he's crawling up the walls trying to get away from the terrifying little boy with cat ears, which is what any other fucking person worth their salt would do if they saw a human being that wasn't human.
Yeah,
they would freak out a little bit.
I do think he kind of fits into that stereotype of just like a typical kind of badass, because he saw that at that point in time, although again, any normal person would do this, but we're not talking about normal people here. This is technically...
Yeah, but it adds a layer of credibility to the character.
I understand exactly. And again, this is all from our point of view. Shawn may be 30 hours in, but he's probably spent 10 of those walking around. So as far as story goes...
This is absolutely true.
So we don't know. This is all first impression, kind of our first impressions on what we know currently about the game. There could be a part, although I don't necessarily see it happening the way the game has played out, there could be a part where there's a time for reflection. We do see a sort of reflection with the main character. Every time he has those things where he goes and talks to that weird boy. I don't know what's going on there yet.
That is the deepest part of the game story so far.
Yeah, he has self-reflection. Like, this kid will come to him and it's like, well, you have a kingdom. Why are you not happy? And then he'll go through and he'll explain it. And he'll kind of present what's going on with his mind. And that makes sense technically, because he is technically the main character.
I think he's a 10-year-old, to be honest. He's got to be 10, because he really doesn't...
say something around there. He does.
I think that other voice in that castle, it simplifies adult concepts for him.
Yeah.
But again, we're giving some things away here. But
yeah,
I think that the reason why I say these are gripes are also reasons why I enjoy it. It's very simple. It has some complexity in there that they've added in for people who are going to want that, like me and like Kyle. There's certain harder parts, but this is made, I think, to be an action-adventure game that's approachable by everyone. But it doesn't really have a lot of heaviness to it. And that's something that I think some people will draw conflict from. I think most of the people are it's just such a joy to play that like what I've done and like what Kyle's done, like even if we were to have gripes about it, to be honest, it's so pleasant to play that why does it really matter all that much? Yeah. I mean, if I wanted something that's heavier, I have heavier 14 inches from me that I can easily pick up and play right now. But I don't want that. I'm playing this because I wanted something that is sweet and just a joy to play. And this is very much a joy. It's very simple to pick up. But I don't want you to think, whoever does listen, for the 8 people that listen to us a year, I don't want you to think that this is a baby game or a children's game. It's really not that. It's more of an ageless game. I think that would probably be the best way to say it. Not even an all ages game, but a game that really doesn't have anything to do with how old you are. It's, do you enjoy, saving people and crushing monsters and exploring worlds and running around and having adventures with sky pirates and shit like that? If that sounds like something that's fun, you're doing it with like a 10-year-old and a 14-year-old and a 32-year-old and a big old pirate guy and fucking, I don't know, a shitload of fucking people eventually. But it's a big world to explore. There's tons to do. It's just none of it's terribly hard.
Yeah. And that'd probably be
so far anyway.
Yeah, that'd probably be my smallest biggest gripe would be the difficulty. And I think some people had the same issue with the first game. It was very easy to overlevel in the first game and you didn't really have a lot of difficulty either. But again, like Shawn said, I pretty much echo
the combat was a lot more satisfying.
Yeah, I pretty much echo although the AI was terribly stupid in the first one. Yeah. I'm glad that the AI is much smarter in this game. I feel like I'm running around with competent actual people and not dummies that I ask to do something and they don't listen. So that's you go into an area where you're not afraid of the enemies killing you and you just sit back, they'll annihilate everyone fairly quickly. They fuck shit up, especially once they get some of their higher level skills. They know exactly what to do to get the job done. I think a lot of the mechanics of the game that they introduce do add nice layers, not necessarily a complexity, just of, like Shawn said, there's a lot to do. I think that the kingdom building aspect that comes in later on is very well implemented. Although it may not be completely fleshed out, I think it holds in tune with the rest of the game. A lot of it is streamlined in general. It
goes back to everything in the game being well implemented, but it's all basically simplified versions of stuff you've seen in other games.
Yeah. So overall, a good product. We both enjoy it. We're still going to keep playing it. And maybe once we finish it, we might be able to do a review or something on it. I don't know. We've never done a review on a video game. But then again, all the games that I've played in the last year, Shawn hasn't even touched. So we can't necessarily do that. Now, can't we? So, ultimately, I think the biggest problem I have with it is that this is also one of the reasons why it's charming. I think what we mentioned earlier is I really liked Super Mario Brothers, even though everybody thinks it's a bad movie. I thoroughly enjoy it, and that's every element of it. This is a game where I thoroughly enjoy it, even though I know one of the reasons I enjoy it is one of the reasons that it drives me nuts. The story is super thin. I wish it was deeper. I wish the characters were more nuanced. But if they were, I wouldn't be getting this light, breezy, super satisfying experience that I'm getting right now. I'd be having a different experience. So I don't want anybody to think that because I sounded overly critical that I don't love this game. Because if I didn't really like this game, I wouldn't have spent the last 2.5 days only playing this game. Like, I'm at 30 hours. I picked up the game on Friday. I spent $200 and got the Super Collector Deluxe Edition. Et cetera, et cetera. And for the most part, I'm very happy with my purchase. So I think when you read all the positive reviews and this thing getting like an 80 something, I think it's like an 82 or an 89 on Metacritic, and all of the critics and everybody, this is a darling right now. Everybody loves this game, and the worst thing I've heard anybody say about it is it's easy to finish. So if you like fairy tales and you like bedtime stories, and there's a part of you that would love to have one of those childhood adventures again in a video game that you enjoyed having on your old systems, then I strongly suggest you pick it up, even though we haven't finished it. Yeah, same here.
I can safely suggest this game as a purchase. I've already done it to several people, and this is being with somebody who's not 1,000% happy with the finished product, but I don't think they could have given me a light, fun fairy tale to run through.
Otherwise,
I mean, they probably could have done better, but I really don't care. I really don't care if they could have done better. 3. I think for the most part, they did it just fine.
Ni no Kuni 3. There we go. We'll see if they can make those changes there. This game has done surprisingly well.
With Ni no Kuni 3 is get one of Miyazaki's writers to write it.
That'd be cool. I don't know how much involvement Ghibli had in Ni no Kuni 2.
None.
Besides,
no, this is just inspired. This is just people who liked
Yeah, because I know with the initial one, they had them actually hand animating scenes for cutscenes. But besides that, the rest of the game was all level 5. So, again, we were both liking the game, both really enjoying it. And if it sounds cool to you, I definitely recommend picking it up. And one cool thing about this game, it has a season pass. It's only $20, which is interesting. And they said it's going to have 2 expansions that will add hours of content. That's what I read. And it's only an additional $20.
About half the, from what I understood, it's going to be about each expansion. They're aiming to be between 20 and 40 hours.
There you go. So
you have like sequel.
Yeah, I spent $80. I got the game, I got the season pass, and some in-game bonus content to have. All for $80.
We had to cooperate to help you find.
Yeah. So. Again,
those swords are badass, by the way.
Oh yeah, they are. I like the one that you get for Roland that looks like an Attack on Titan blade.
Yeah, box and cutter. Then there's another one that looks like a king's blade. It's like gold with gems in the hilt.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So that was episode 45 of the Thought Patrol podcast. We're quickly approaching our 1-year anniversary. It's coming up in less than a month. We're going to try and do something special for all you. Including, hopefully, a 12-hour live stream. You heard it here first. I'm going to take a day off of work.
That was your idea?
Hell yeah, dude. And, that's not the only thing. We're definitely going to have a special podcast episode. But on top of that, there will be a 12-hour live stream. I'm going to make an actual schedule, what we're going to try and do in like blocks. So, because no one's going to stay there for 12 hours. That's already in my head. But if there's something that you want to see happen, we can do that. And I think
I can probably do it if it's a weekend.
It'll probably be like a Saturday. I'll take off from work, and then on a Saturday I'll set up a block, and one of those blocks are going to be us doing a live, not podcast episode, but a live after hours. So one of those blocks will be a live podcast recording. So definitely something to look forward to. If that information will be put up on both Twitter, anywhere that would be important, Twitter, Discord, stuff like that. And I might make a video for YouTube to explain kind of what we're going to do for the anniversary, put a video together. So definitely look forward to that. Again, we have less than a month. April 22nd is in fact our anniversary. That is a Sunday. So maybe that Saturday, the 21st, we might do the live stream, do some other stuff, and that Sunday we'll record our special episode that I have planned. I'm going to talk with the other host. We'll get some stuff down, but I would definitely love to have you guys come by, say hi, hang out with us as we celebrate a year of doing whatever the fuck we're doing. So, and we couldn't have done it without you guys. I know everyone fucking says that, but it does help doing something like this when you're getting some sort of feedback. You have someone telling you like, man, your stuff's cool. I actually listened to it. And we're not like hitting 0 views. We're actually getting feedback. And that definitely helps for anyone making content. And it helps you kind of chug along and spend the time to do all this shit every week. So again, definitely kudos out to all of you out there for helping making editing another episode that much easier and stuff like that. So Shawn, it has come to that time. You know what it is. Give me a
hugs and kisses and all your pink parts, my sexy peoples.
Damn straight. And I fucked up, and I did not have a tab open for a useless fact. So give me uno momento, por favor. I don't even know if anyone likes when I do this, but I think it's interesting. So hey, and if you can go and tell your mama or your dad or your grandmama that you learned something new listening to dumbasses talk on the internet, hey. I've left a mark here somewhere. Okay, here we go. And this actually is this works not necessarily with our main topic, but the rest of what we talked about. Before we leave, I shall leave you all with a thought. Every year, 11,000 Americans injure themselves while trying out bizarre sexual positions.